Hello and welcome everybody to Bread Theory. Well, it has been exactly a year since I started streaming. Oh, I always forget to turn down my phone when I do that. Just sharing out the stream to the various places that I like to notify. Um, but tonight, since it's been exactly a year, I thought might be kind of fun to do a state of the stream address where I kind of look back on the work that I've done over the past year and give some thoughts about where my political positions are right now, having done political theory for now a year. So I think the first thing we'll do is we're going to take a look at just some ideas about politics and kind of where I stand politically after reading all these various theories from all different parts of leftist thought. So I came up with a document. I'll bring it up right now, and it's just I just titled it "The State of the Stream." So I'll read through some of the points that I have come to think about. And my idea is to kind of return to this every year, and modify it as my views change, as my strategies or my ideas for strategies for political organization change, and just kind of see where we're at year to year. It's just kind of a benchmark that we can return to, because I do actually have a plan for where this stream goes and the sort of things that we cover, and that'll be part of what I share too. But first, let's get into some thoughts that I have after doing a year of this. All right, let me just pull it up here. Okay, so I kind of broke it down into a number of points, and I'll just kind of read through it point by point. So here's some things that I've come to believe after doing political theory for almost exactly a year now. My first video came out on February 13th of 2021. Number one, the critical left-right split comes from the answers to the question, are people more or less equal, regardless of sex, race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, economic status, class, religion, beliefs, body type and size, mental and physical health, or any other category? Or are there natural hierarchies amongst those categories that are also inheritable? So to me, that's where the left-right split really breaks down on. So if you answered yes to the former, I would include you in the leftist camp, and that's point number two. Number three, if indeed people are more or less equal, it follows that they deserve an equal measure of freedom, democracy, choice, bodily autonomy, and agency to decide how and where they want to contribute to the world. Point four, in order to have the most of these things, for the most people, an individual's right to do something must end where it diminishes another person's ability to do the same. Number five, the realms of life that most affect people, and in which people could have the greatest effect on change, are personal life, economic life, and political life. Point six, to maximize freedom, democracy, choice, bodily autonomy, and agency in all of these realms, no one can be struggling just to survive. So if you're just struggling to live paycheck to paycheck or get enough, food or any basic necessity in your life to just keep going, you can't really make many choices. And under capitalism, that kind of is a good thing for the people that own all the jobs. They want you to be in a place where you're in a weakened bargaining position. Number seven, therefore, every truly leftist movement should be focused on securing the basic necessities of life for everybody. These necessities are secure and safe housing with functional modern utilities, abundant and nutritious food, health care that protects all parts of the body, including eyes, mouth, and emotional well-being, education up to any level and in any area that is desired, clean, safe, and reliable transportation, justice that focuses on rehabilitation and restoration over punishment and degradation, and access to welcoming, kind, and caring community to assist in these pursuits. Point 8. Building networks of mutual aid organized by horizontally structured neighborhood councils, unconnected to any official government body, made up entirely of neighborhood residents, is the best, most resilient, and empowering way to start. Point 9. By organizing neighborhood by neighborhood, eventually into a city, county, even a regional confederation of neighborhood councils of mutual aid, we can enfranchise as many people as possible into the movement and give them the needed education and experience to carry on after the point if and when the scaffolding of relative stability afforded by bourgeois democracy is either ripped away or it crumbles. Point 10. The world we build is meaningless if it can't provide for the seventh generation what it does for us today. We must keep this principle in mind as we build our connections to the ecological systems we are a part of, as we shape and build the cities we inhabit, and as we build and strengthen our social and political relationships. Point 11. We must keep the interconnected, interdependent web of nature always in mind and seek to position ourselves not as dominators nor as exploiters, but as integral co-creators of the ecological systems and all that we and all life are inexorably dependent upon. Permaculture, its ethics, principles, and philosophy, and the work that it has produced is the best body of thought and work to study in order to achieve this. Point 12. We must seek to understand the dynamic, ever-changing, interlocking systems that make up our cities in order to arrange them in ways that empower workers and promote and strengthen community bonds. New urbanism, its principles and philosophy, and the work that it has produced is the best body of thought and work to study in order to achieve this. And finally, point 13, we must seek to build political organizations that promote freedom, democracy, choice, bodily autonomy, and agency, balancing it with the rights of everyone else to have the same. The various leftist philosophies and the work that they have produced are the best body of thought and work to study in order to achieve this goal. So that's it. That's what I have from all the various theories that we have read. Good evening, Natalie. Good to have you on. Just going through some of the points that I've come to understand and believe, having gone through theory for the past year. So this is the 1-year anniversary. Pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, so those are my ideas right now. That from all the different ideas that we've covered, that's kind of what I've distilled down to be the best of it and the most realistic way to affect the kind of change that we want to affect and to get as many people on our side as possible. Okay, I think now we'll go in and take a look at some of the videos that, some of the topics that we've covered. I think maybe first we'll start with my very first video that I streamed, which will be interesting. I didn't know at all what I was doing back then. I had no concept of balancing my microphone or I believe I still had 2 sources of audio input, so it was getting kind of a doubling effect from the camera and the microphone. So the audio is not great. And it being the first bit of theory that I covered on stream, not the first bit of theory I've ever read, but the first I've covered on stream, I didn't have a lot of the ideas formed at that point that could have probably better informed the way that I analyzed it. But let's take a look. The very first one was, let's see, let me get to it right now. Not there. Was it this one? Nope. Trying to open the right tab. The first one was the Communist Manifesto. I think this is probably the right one. Yep. So here we go. Let's take a quick look. We'll probably skim over it a little bit at the very first stream. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong mode. I'm in studio. I shouldn't be in studio. All right. Just 1 second. I will remedy that. So we'll go to our videos and we'll go all the way down. I also just passed another milestone. I think this is my 102nd video that I've put out. So that's pretty exciting as well. That means that in a year, I've averaged just about two streams or videos a week. Even though for the first half of the year, I didn't put out much more than just the weekly stream. I was just doing it weekly. All right, let's take a look at this. Oh boy. So yeah, even in the other room, I had a worse camera at the time. So this will just be a little bit of fun. Thank you, Natalie, for the happy anniversary wish. Uh, all right. Thank you, James. So here it is, Communist Manifesto, Chapter 1. Audiobooks, and we'll play some video games, and my frame rate was terrible too. So my name is Zach. So I mean, that right off the bat, there's another problem. I was streaming in the wrong frames per second, and I had an older computer at the time as well. So it's mostly a still show that once in a while updates, but the video itself was not working very well at that time. But it's important to see where we come from. Him pronouns, and I'm starting this channel primarily to help people who may be interested in leftist theory, but haven't had the chance to look into it much themselves for whatever reason. Oops. Press the wrong button. Sorry about that. Let's get that back up. There we go. And let's turn on the, I don't know if the subtitles are even going to work or how well they're going to work because the audio is so terrible. To help you through it, someone who knows a little bit more than you, which I guess that would be me in this case. And I know for myself, when I am listening to audiobooks, it helps me to have. So you can hear that doubling of the audio. I'd like to think that I've come a long way since then to balance my microphone settings, make it a little bit richer sound. Not so much. I think you can hear the fan in the background too. I'm gonna play video games. Nothing too like modern. And that's right. Attention pulling. Not gonna see it. I also started out by I would play video games at the same time I was doing theory. I thought that would give people some more visual eyewash as I go along. Because I know for myself, what really helps is to have, if I'm thinking about something and I'm trying to absorb it, especially if it's in audio form, I like to have something to occupy my field of vision. So that's why, that's one big reason that I like my job doing deliveries. I'm a delivery driver in the wintertime. And then also in the summertime, I guess I have about the same set of circumstances where I can have a task at hand that I can focus my visual, attention on. And that helps me to absorb the audio a lot better. So I was like, we'll try that. We'll have video games be the thing that kind of performs that duty. Thanks, Natalie. I'm glad it sounds better now. I'm glad there's a noticeable difference, because to me this sounds terrible. I've thought many times of even taking this first series down because the audio was so bad. But I guess when it comes down to it, it's important to keep things up for posterity, just so you can at least see where you've come from and how you've grown. And also I think I would hope that it would help other creators too who are starting out to see that you don't have to have everything set up just so. You don't have to have the flashiest graphics or sound effects or interactive features. The most important thing is to just get going and try stuff and continuously learn about how to do things better, which I'd like to think that I've done. So I think it's probably best to keep it up. Oh, and I see my banana tree there in the background off to the side over here. That banana tree recently succumbed to mealybug infestation. So that was really sad. That was my oldest plant. I had it for probably 6, 7, maybe even 8 years. It got to, man, even in a year, it had grown quite a bit. It was probably twice that tall. And then all of a sudden the mealybugs really got into it. And the thing about bananas is, unlike a woody tree, they're more like a grass. So they have layers and layers and layers of tissue. And so the mealybugs just get in between there and they just wreak havoc. So Finally got a new one today though, so that was exciting. My wife Amanda got me one, so hopefully this one will be more resilient. Like Cyberpunk 2077 on here or anything like that. It's gonna be mostly classic games, a lot of sandbox sort of games like SimCity or real-time strategy games. We'll skip ahead a little bit. So here, which has been I was kind of trying to lay out my personal philosophy at the time. So this is kind of important to look at because we can juxtapose that with what I had, the speech that I opened with tonight. So back then I had it pretty clear that I wanted to combine new urbanism, permaculture, and leftist theory. And I think going along over the course of the year, having covered a lot of those topics too, pretty extensively, I still am pretty confident that those are the three areas that I find to be most important for organizing our physical community, uh, inserting ourselves, making ourselves more a part of the ecological community, and then organizing ourselves politically and interpersonally. So, so yeah, I'm still in agreement with that part of it for sure. Masters of Arts in Urban Planning. So I was talking about what new urbanism is. We'll skip ahead a little bit, get to the next slide. Boy, I was sure rambling on a lot about that one. All right, so then I got into permaculture. I did a little overview of that one. And then different damages that people might inflict on the earth. And so one of the founders. Oh, that's right. I kind of teased it. I didn't give you the third one quite yet. So first I talked about. Oh boy, and I had my I had my video, my my camera overshadowing it. But what this is supposed to be, I was kind of describing my process of learning, and how I started out being really enthusiastic about cities. Cities have always fascinated me. So I went into urban planning and discovered new urbanist ideas. And so that became the first real big passion of my life. And then I got out of school and I got into landscaping and doing natural, native and edible plants as landscaping as a way to integrate more ecology into people's landscapes at home. And and so that became my second great passion. So what I'm trying to do here is show how where these things intersect. Like what happens if you combine new urbanist thoughts with permaculture? Well, you get something like the Transition Towns Network, which is trying to build a better world. In their case, their primary focus was they were they were pretty sure that peak oil was imminent, that we were going to peak in global oil production. Let me just wait for that to pass. Still got sirens that go by the window. That sure hasn't changed. Uh, anyway, so they were motivated mostly with the idea that peak oil was going to happen, and there was going to be a low energy future, and they had to reorient cities to be able to withstand that sort of a shock. Um, so that's kind of what impelled them forward. And as peak oil hasn't quite materialized, as we've found ways of doing like fracking and other more exotic forms of energy extraction, that has made up enough of the difference. Plus, it lowered demand globally in fuels, has kind of made all those predictions not quite play out the way that they had predicted. Like, I remember being in college, and pretty much everyone who was studying like petrogeology or anything to do with the extraction of and use of energy, they were all convinced that for certain by the year 2020 we were going to be in a really tight spot, that we would be having wars already about energy, that our quality of life would be continually diminished. There'd be wild gas price fluctuations, all that sort of thing. But it turns out that hasn't quite played out. But I think transition towns is still an important way of looking at things, because the thing is, even if that sort of doomsday sort of scenario doesn't play out, it's still a good thing to orient your cities to use less energy, to grow more food, to have more interpersonal connections, be more walkable, transit-oriented city. These are all good things regardless of what happens. But anyway, my point here in this first video is that what if you combine those two? That's what you get. Shocks to the system through climate change. So we'll skip ahead again. At the different patterns that I was talking about how I had started a transition towns group and got a lot of camaraderie through it. People who were thinking about the same questions that I was, all that sort of thing. He must be a great multitasker. I'm always multitasking, though I definitely am not as efficient in doing so. You know what? I have become pretty well convinced that in the past, but over the course of the past year, that I probably do have some degree of attention deficit as well. I don't have the hyperactive or at least I don't think I do. I don't feel like I'm super hyperactive, but it's just I get distracted really easily as well, especially about things that I find really interesting, and I really have trouble splitting my attention. Which is one reason that I got away from playing the video games at the same time that I was listening to the political streams, because I feel like I did lose a lot of information in the process. All right, let's continue on. So then I brought in anarcho-communism, which was how I would describe myself probably still, although I'm being drawn lately to the ideas of Murray Bookchin, who was described by many different labels, eco-socialist, uh, uh, green anarchist, communalist, what was the other one? Democratic confederalist. All these ideas of organization at the local level have come to be really interesting and intriguing to me as a real viable strategy for building a better future, whether or not there ever is some sort of violent overthrow of any government, or whether, climate catastrophe or whatever brings down the government either. It is very similar to the ideas of transition towns about building a resilient future using the relative stability of the present. But I still really agree with the ideas of anarcho-communism. I still really resonate of all the anarchists that we have looked at so far, which hasn't been all that many, but the few that we have looked at so far, definitely Peter Kropotkin is the one that I resonate most with. And he's considered the father of anarcho-communism. Extra, even if it's just money, it could be extra food, it could be extra anything. Just sharing it with people that need it, connecting up people that. Yep. So I was talking about ideas of mutual aid, which I still think to be, pretty central to, pretty central to the way that we should move forward. Is mutual aid seems to be the most important thing. Have with people that need without having to go through some sort. All right. So then I combined all the ideas. And so this is kind of the Venn diagram of my three basic philosophies that I like to follow. And so I said, okay, so we already have the transition towns network. So that's what happens. You combine permaculture with urban planning. So what happens when you combine permaculture with anarcho-communist or just leftist in general ideas? Well, you might get something like a an intentional community or something like that. And that's all well and good. So anyway, let me back up one second. So the main problem with the Transition Towns network and its movement is that it tends to be followed and promoted by people that are relatively well off, like middle class, what we would think of as middle class people that have all their basics met and they have time to sit around and volunteer for things and whatnot. So as a result, the solutions that it comes up with tend to be good for middle class people. It's, things like putting a solar water heater on your house's roof. Well, if you live in an apartment, as I do, that's out of your reach. It could be things like supporting a community-supported agriculture box so that we can build more low-impact farmers. But again, if you don't have the money up front, it's out of your reach. So this tends to be more well established person, sort of a movement. Let's put it that way. So what happens when you combine permaculture with leftist ideas? Well, you might get a movement that I don't, you know what? I don't. Oh, the global eco village. You might get like, yeah, eco villages, which is great, but having a bunch of rural enclaves, even if they're leftist, even if they're living off the land and living their values, is not necessarily moving a whole lot of people forward. It's I've got absolutely no problem or nothing against rural living or rural people, but they're not the majority anymore. Majority of people live in cities, so I was looking for more of solutions that would be applicable to cities. So what happens if you combine leftist ideas with good urban planning? Well, you could get a food cooperative. You could get unions. I put the IWW as a uh, example of that. So worker-owned cooperatives, unions. These are all really great things, but they're not inherently considering the environment. You could have a really great worker-owned cooperative of a coal mine. And that doesn't mean that just because your people are being treated well and have democratic say in their workplace, that they're not also dumping their tailings in the nearest waterway whenever they can get away with it. You could have a really great like coffee shop, but that doesn't mean, and it could be all worker owned. Everyone gets paid well. Everyone has benefits. It's all really good stuff, but they could still be dependent on really damaging practices like having disposable cups. Just that alone adds tons of waste to the environment. Things that you use for an hour tops as you drink your drink and then throw away and is garbage forever, or on the human scale, it might as well be forever. So it's missing a component too. So then my question was, well, what do you do when you combine all three? I'll fast forward to that, and you get to the idea of Solaris, which is a Latin word that means of the sun, and that's where my symbol comes from. So my symbol, just to break it down a little bit, is you have the circle of the yellow sun, and it's shining through this simple fractal. And the fractal is downward triangle, which represents a lot of things. It represents an inversion of the current hierarchy. So instead of having most of the people at the bottom and then just a few lucky few at the top, and less as you go up the levels, we want to invert that so that most of the people are doing great, and maybe through bad luck or just one circumstance or another, that's the only people that are not doing as well. But more or less everyone can be doing well. Have all that democracy, autonomy, the stuff that I was talking about earlier in their lives. Yeah, eco socialism. That's the hey. Oh, you're ready to go. All right. I will send a link to you, Dan, so that you can join as well. There we go. So Dan is going to be joining the stream too. I guess the Super Bowl can't be over already. It's only been on for like an hour, right? I thought you were going to watch the Super Bowl, but no matter. I will send you the link so you can hop on whenever you feel like. Just give me 1 second. I'll set that up. So yeah, so the triangle is green. It's that symbolizes the green of the earth mixed with the light of the sun. So that's your yellow and green put together. Let me go ahead and sorry, I missed your message there, Dan. There you go. You should be able to join now. No, what's still on? I don't. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of your. All right, here comes Dan. Hello, Dan. How you doing?
Hold on. I had to close the browser.
Oh, no problem.
All right. See, everything should be. Let me just see if everything's set up correctly.
No problem. So I'll just keep talking about the symbol.
You just heard me, right?
Yep. You
Okay,
were
great.
on. You were live.
Yeah, no, I watched the first quarter. Why aren't you watching the Super Bowl?
I know a lot of people love their sports ball and whatnot, but I decided at probably when I was in high school, I was like, there's only so many things that I can really devote my attention to and really, devote my mental bandwidth to.
And
And
sports ain't gonna be one of them.
I just don't think sports is going to be one of them. I think sports are fun. I love seeing live sports events, but I don't really go out of my way to partake
I'm
uh,
the opposite.
as a
I
spectator.
will participate in sports, but I don't like watching them.
See, that I understand. It's to me that's definitely a lot more fun to actually be doing the sport yourself.
Oh, of course. So yeah, I caught you while you're halfway in, but I was watching the last 10 minutes of you kind of explaining your tripartite Venn diagram,
Yeah, that's right.
and obviously the three lefts kind of does the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
with each circle being one being ecology, that would be your permaculture side,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
socialism and anarchism. But you combine socialism and anarchism in the bottom.
Yeah,
So
just
you
a
put
general leftism.
and
Yeah.
you put urbanism as your third. Um, I think so otherwise eco-socialism is like one side, libertarian socialism is the other side, and what would like be eco-anarchism, I guess, would be the third.
Sure.
But how are these things expressed in actual movements is
Right.
what you would point out with transition towns and libertarian municipalism. I think is kind of like a fusion of the urban planning side and libertarian socialism.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I definitely do have plans to get into the work of like Murray Bookchin and the people who were inspired by him. That's going to be one of the places that this stream goes next as we get into different theory.
So so your Triforce. So sorry. So
Yeah.
you can continue with that,
It
and
was it
I'll.
was definitely partially based on the Triforce. Legend of Zelda was a big influence on my childhood. It doesn't really have much to do with my political beliefs, I guess, but
Mhm. But you just designed this yourself, right?
I designed it myself. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a simple fractal. It's supposed to represent the sum being greater than or the whole being the greater than the sum of its parts, and how we're all stronger together, acting together. It's supposed to represent different patterns in nature, and yeah, the triangle, the downward triangle, being in solidarity with feminism, with various oppressed peoples throughout
Mhm.
history, and just an inversion of the current top down hierarchy as more of a bottom up hierarchy instead. As little hierarchy as possible. Really, it would be a flattened triangle, but having most of the people
Or a
doing pretty
squat,
well.
or a squat diamond,
There you go.
so
Yeah,
that you have the few overachievers at the top
yeah.
and very few, um, basically dirty job holders at the bottom.
Oh yeah, or just people that perhaps have mental health issues that forces them to, and they maybe they don't get help with it and they end up on the street, that sort of thing.
They don't get the extra labor voucher.
Right. Yeah. So, but more or less, people being able to do well. Hey, Radical Disability, good to have you on. So you say today you got frustrated and angry at an anti-healthcare person. They don't get to get the bigotry.
Biology.
Oh, the biology, not bigotry. Thank you. The biology of the person matters, and it is the right for people to have it. Like, I can't stand this. Like, it is the libertarian version of someone should harm another person.
So they are not just anti, like, single payer healthcare. They're just anti all healthcare. They're like a Christian Scientist.
Or is that in relation to like mask mandates and vaccine mandates and that sort of thing? Could be something like that.
I would call that more health policy, like anti-health like that. There can be
Mm,
no public health policy because that's something imposed by a state. So I mean, general anti-statism can apply,
mhm.
but it also makes for really like bad society, I believe. But unless there's some other entity that makes policy that everyone either agrees to, consents to,
Mhm.
but it's,
I
we're
agree.
not in that place, and unless there's a commune that's doing that, they're probably enacting their own policies for COVID and whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, they're anti-healthcare person. Period. Ooh. So they don't believe in the concept of healthcare.
Christian Scientist kind of thing.
No thanks on that one.
They usually mean well maybe they don't believe in the prayer either,
Who
unless
knows?
they're alternative healthcare, which is it's
Oh
all
boy,
woo, kooky,
that's quite, that's yet another rabbit hole.
all
Yeah.
new age.
But yeah, so that was. I'm just going over my first video. So it was exactly a year that my first video came out, and just kind of checking myself where I'm at now a year later. So
Congrats!
definitely,
I'm honored to join you.
thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to have you. You've been our most often guest, and one of my favorite guests for sure. One that I always learned a whole lot from. Even though I always think I know a lot about the topics that we're talking about, but yeah, you managed to pull out more stuff.
There's always someone
So
that knows more.
yeah, there absolutely is always someone who knows more, and it's good to stay humble that way too. Um, so yeah, yeah, that was my first video from last year, and I think that's probably all I want to talk about with that one. Kind of maybe look a little bit
Explaining your
about.
ideology, right?
Yeah, I was kind of explaining my ideology, um, and then I played a video game while we listened to the first chapter of the intro to the Communist Manifesto. And it didn't work out all that well. I don't think. I think I missed a whole lot. My attention was split too much. Um,
I haven't tried gaming on a stream yet, mostly
yeah,
because when I game, I'm too focused. Like I can't imagine talking while I'm gaming.
yeah, you definitely have to disconnect a part of your brain
Like I don't know,
in
especially
order to do
like
that.
when I was listening to Shark 30,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he was like debating. It was not a debate. It was a conversation with an incel, like this incel of truly like a um Lovecraftian entity actually, um of a person. So
Hmm.
but Shark was playing a Twitch shooter, not Twitch the platform, but like a action shooter, top down
Sure.
shooter game.
Yep. Yep.
And like I can't imagine being like doing something like that, and but maybe it helps you zone out and not pay attention to like some evil person, because
That could
I was
be.
paying attention to this guy talking, and I literally like I felt a little soy because I was like tearing up like this guy is so uncomfortable to listen to. I'm about to cry because he kept repeating
Uh,
a phrase. It was a triggering phrase, like a biological failure, referring to
oh
a
man.
person who
So this person themselves would identified as an incel.
no,
Oh,
he was
oh,
adamant not to be called that. Um,
I see.
but Shark called him something else to be nicer.
Uh huh.
But he was like, you know, where it's like you try nice to someone, right? But showing someone kindness is actually like they hate kindness. So
Right. They
it's
just want to
like
wallow in their self
to take a
pity
Star
and
Trek kind of. It's like he's oh, damn it! Now I forgot the name of the species. The Tridorians, no, Tellarites. Like the Tellarites, that they're the species in Star Trek that get off on art. Like they're the species that argues and insults each other as a form of
oh,
respect. Like they don't
oh,
respect you unless you insult them. And I guess
okay.
this was a guy where, but it's like he's both simultaneously super fragile, you know, or he reacts really badly, and at the same time, it's like you're weak when you're empathetic
Uh
and
huh.
care about others. It's so it was like I use the word
That's so.
Lovecraftian because like he was this maelstrom of discomfort and inhumanity
Mm,
that the guy only slightly references that he doesn't have a large friend group, and
hmm.
yet also talks of social fail like being a social failure and all this like all this stuff, and but then he's constantly saying like Shark, you're just projecting that on me, ha ha ha, you're trying to get me in a gotcha. He's just terminally online creature.
Yeah.
I assume, that would not give up any information about himself whatsoever. Like Shark asked him what his age was, wouldn't tell you how old he was, because again, he's so insecure. He can't, like, either it's like, well, you either got to be called too old, and like, why are you calling, like, talking about this stuff when you're over 30, or you're too young, and it's like, well, why, you still have a lot of life ahead of you. Why are you talking about sex and women so much when you're not even out of college age or something? But you couldn't tell how old this guy was, because his voice was like so, both like the maturity of a 12-year-old, but the, I don't know, tone of, I'm talking from experience and I've been around the block, and it was a trip. And it was 3 hours, but I was listening to it while I was playing Warhammer Total War, so I was inflicting pain with Dark Elves all the while.
Yeah, I was kind of talking about that thing earlier, where like sometimes if I'm trying to absorb some audio, it does help me to keep my visual field focused on something else, which is one reason I like doing my delivery job, is because I can just keep driving, keep looking at my thing, and then I can just kind of keep most of my focus, or all the focus that I need to absorbing what's ever coming over from the podcast or YouTube video or whatever it is I'm listening to.
Others draw or do something else.
Yeah. It's the same sort of thing as like doodling or whatever.
Yeah, I do the same
So,
thing. But so anyway, I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you had more planned, but are you, as a leftist man, blatantly jealous of Joe Rogan's effortless and easygoing masculinity? Because as failed men, weak failed men, we can't stand seeing traditional men flourish, simply because it reminds us that of what we will never possess.
I know there's some sort of scripted response that I'm supposed to give for that, but yeah.
No, you don't. You can respond however you like.
I don't know. I guess there's nothing about Joe Rogan that I'm really jealous or intimidated by.
I'm quoting, by the way.
Yeah, I've seen that quote floating around on the internet.
It's from Angie Speaks, who is like any other left tuber.
Yeah.
Should really just not use Twitter. But it's interesting when
It's a common theme, yeah.
who was I don't know who was pointing it out. Maybe it was Hassan, but they use the reference to Rat Park, in that, like,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Twitter is this toxic mechanism when you're insecure and have no stability in your life. So if you are stable, have lots of friends, have a good social life, and so on, not only do you not really need to use Twitter as an addictive or compulsion, it doesn't become one.
Right.
And then you're not toxic on Twitter in the first place. And all these left tubers who are terminally online, or they're just too much online, they're all toxic and terrible people on Twitter. They can make great videos. I'm referring to Peter Coughlin, Angie Speaks, and Bad Empanada. I like them, and their personas when it's
right.
parasocial, I guess. But when it's on Twitter, they actively go out to like piss everyone off,
Right.
and to be the opposite of who they really are.
Yeah, Bad Empanada is one of the
It's
worst.
like they're experimenting
dichotomies
with personas or something. It's
Yeah.
it's weird, because I've been experimenting myself by listening or watching Peter Coughlin's weekly stream with his partner, and sometimes their kid is featured sometimes as well. But so I'm trying to just figure out where Peter Coughlin is, like, because he's like post or anti-left. But by that he means like you're either a communist or you're not. There's no, like, just say you're a communist, because if you're not a communist, then you're just some kind of reformist. I get that point of view, but he's so inelegant in how he presents that most of the time. As mostly like everyone else is just not pure enough as a communist or something like that. And but I'm trying to figure out what his platform is, because like so many of these other people that like speak of organizing and worker struggles being so paramount. Okay, are you doing any of that? Are you an
Mm-hmm.
IWW member?
Mm-hmm.
And Coughlin, they did, him and his partner mentioned joining, not joining it, but like that their only option that's on their radar is the SWP. And of course, that's absolute trash organization. So it's like, well, so until they get their act together, we're not joining no revolutionary party.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so defeatist. It's defeatist.
Right.
Unless you're willing to join an org, because it is so small, it's like 200 people,
Yeah.
you'd be able to take it over, or shift their paradigm of what makes them trash and make them less trash. Because like you can do that with the Green Party real easily. I mean, that's what has happened in the last decade, that it's become more socialist, more eco-socialist in character, as more younger people
Absolutely.
like me have joined, and much crowded out a lot of the kooks, though they're still rummaging around, especially when like, so I made a stream that's probably down now because it's limited, but I tried moving it to YouTube, but YouTube kept flagging me for anti-vax shit,
Oh.
because all I was doing was reading the COVID statement that the steering committee made. All right, this is not like, there's no president of the Green Party, but we do have a steering
Right.
committee that is elected, and they put out a statement on our COVID policy, right? Because it's not like we're going to have a platform playing just for COVID, but maybe we should.
Sure.
But this would be like them proposing one. But by putting it out as a press release and whatever, it's a statement. It's almost like it's official policy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not voted on. It wasn't discussed by the general membership. So there are voices that are like, this is completely out of whack and authoritarian, or you should have consulted us. We all have to be consulted. It's like, but that's like, super consensus version of anarchism, where everyone has to be asked if they're okay with something, and it'll take 5 years to basically
Yeah.
say we don't like war,
Yeah.
or we don't like pandemics.
Yeah.
But in this case, the steering committee, I mean, it was a statement listing out all of our types of platform planks that have to do with providing healthcare to everybody, and all of the stuff that has to do with creating the just, equitable society that would make a lot of the arguments made about COVID policy moot, right? But it begins, the first paragraph says, vaccine mandates when necessary. So this is a very controversial position, apparently. And what really kind of freaked me out about it was that there are counter statements put out by the Black Caucus that was using, I'll say, vaccine skeptic language.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and what really freaks me out is they're using the vaccine skeptic language is just like anti-abortion activists, religious fundamentalists. It's always like couching things as a matter of choice. Like teach the controversy, like with
Mm-hmm.
creationists in schools. They're like, we need to
Right.
teach the
Yes.
controversy
Teach
of
the
COVID
controversy.
results, or the data about COVID. Like, we need to teach the controversy. There's obviously different types of data, and we need to have both held up like equally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it was a statement. I really didn't like that statement. It's usually not the type they put out. So I'm really like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I read both statements, and the second statement is probably what flagged me, because I was reading all this, but I was criticizing it the whole way through. So I appealed and said, I am not promoting vaccine skepticism. I am, discussing a conversation that involves a very well put together, piece that's within the guidelines of what the tech companies to deem as okay, and obviously a statement that is calling that out.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. But I'm a small channel, so I think I don't get any attention when it comes to the bots, or it's like, oh no, you're out. You can't post for a week. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah,
So
I mean, they're
it doesn't
so
feel
touchy about that these
it
days.
doesn't feel great. So I've shifted
Yeah.
to the project of putting all of my podcast episodes on YouTube. So my goal is to put 2 up every week. I've learned how to do it, so now it's pretty much a 2-hour process at most to create the video and
Mm.
encode it and then upload it. So it
Okay.
shouldn't be,
Well,
and
that's great though.
especially faster because I'm basically taking out any music. So because it would,
Yeah.
even
Don't
when
want to
I
worry
had,
about
I don't
copyright flagging.
I don't know how these other, but I watch channels and stuff, or maybe because it's automatic, but maybe because it's from Twitch. But like they'll have a minute of music, but maybe it's or 30 seconds. But my 30-minute and 30-second outro music from Kill a Kill got me
Hmm.
flagged, or it didn't pass their check.
Yeah, you never
Um,
know.
it's
Like,
so odd. So now there's no music except my intro of which is a montage. But I'm gonna have to commission someone to make me a special theme music.
that would be really cool. Yeah, I just found some free a free lo-fi version of
Hmm.
Mother Anarchy Loves Her Sons, and I just kind of use that as my theme music.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's amazing what they'll flag. Like my one video that's been taken down, and it was the live stream that got taken down. It was like they came down hard. It was just this random TED talk by George Monbiot. So I figured it was a copyright claim because I guess TED is
It's
very,
Ted. It's Ted.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
they're
But the,
literally the 1%.
but they flagged me for spam and misleading information, not for copyright claim, for spam and misleading information. And it's
So
like
the talk was misleading, and
their own talk was misleading. I don't know. Like I was making commentary about the whole thing, so I'm like,
it's a bot doing it. So
it's got to
I
be.
mean, and I'm appealing, I assume, to a bot, and the bot is like reading my appeal. So, I mean, it's just layers of inept automation, which is
Hmm.
why it's kind of important that my position in the last over the winter has been to physically call people about their was it their application fee payments for SUNY,
Oh,
the state
okay.
university system,
Yeah, yeah.
which I'm only doing for the next 3 more days, and then I'm starting my new job.
Oh,
Congratulate me, Zach.
congratulations.
I am out of I have escaped the precariat. I've been in the
Wow.
precariat since college for the last 8 years, full decade,
Uh-huh.
I think, and all the while, only I was in civil service, but it was all temporary, and thus no actual worker rights, except the basic ones, I suppose. But even basic worker rights in civil service is still way above like working at
Oh
Amazon.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I actually can just, I don't have to really ask to go to the bathroom. I can go to the bathroom. And I don't have to do it on the assembly line. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the
It's quite the luxury.
right, yeah, so many luxuries of a state work. Um, Even with all the cuts and being and understaffing as well. So there's a lot of work that could have been done that wasn't done because we were understaffed. Like we were able to make all the first calls, but like ideally we should be able to call people after a month to check to see if they still want to apply to college, or maybe they didn't get the first message, which happens. Like when I do the second calls, I'm told not to worry about it. It's usually a waste of time. But when I do the second calls, I think 3 out of every 10 calls is actually I helped them. They actually
Hmm.
didn't see the first message, or they
Hmm.
forgot,
That's cool.
or something like that. And of course, it's like, oh, it's not our problem if people
Yeah.
forget to pay this or forget that they were applying to college. But it's like, okay, well, it's still a service. I'm being paid to help people, um, to get it, to not get fall through the cracks. So yeah, but if there's 3 of us, we could have done a lot more. But with
Mm-hmm.
just me,
Oh, I'm sure.
it was impossible. We were in a month-long hole with the queue. Yeah, no pee bottle. In fact, I could. State jobs are great, but it takes forever to get in. And for me, it was like New York politics, 101 on New York politics. There's about to get anything positive done. Usually, there's a 1 month gap where there's a new governor. When the governor changes, there's a year where the governor has to basically please everybody
Yeah.
and actually do favors, and that means actually do things.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that a ton of departments could actually hire people again. They were not allowed to as long as Andrew Cuomo was governor. As soon as he's not governor, suddenly they're all able to actually fill their holes again. They're still going to be understaffed, but at least they can get somebody to help. And so from November on, I did 10 dozen interviews with various departments. And I finally came across somebody who's, and this is usually the rule, the person who's interviewing you needs to be somewhat like you. Because if you're going to be working with them for years and years, they want someone that they know they'll get along with.
Gotta have some compatibility, yeah.
Some kind of compatibility. So in this case, we were both graduate architects because it's a building facilities management office. So
cool.
with state ed. I don't know if that's a violation, but I doubt it is. The violation is if I'm like working on a campaign for school board or something.
A violation for who? What are you talking about?
Oh, state workers aren't allowed to do political action.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But it's more like we're not allowed to. Well, it's specific, but it keeps a lot of state workers from doing anything.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because they're afraid of getting in trouble.
So are you keeping your state job and then just adding this other job onto?
No, it's just transferring.
Just transferring. Okay.
No, because my current one was going to end in March anyway.
I see. Well, that's cool. At least that's exciting.
We'll see. Ideally, I will work here or in civil service for another 7 years and retire with the basic vested. Like I'm vested after 10 years. And that allows me the most basic retirement possible. I don't know how much that would actually be, but it would be like, 30, it's usually like 20-30% of my salary.
Hey, that's not bad.
And right,
so
it would be basic
treat
income.
that. Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. You can treat that like a UBI and then
do work part-time.
Free yourself off.
And I'll be pretty much free. Yeah, free from capitalism a little bit.
That's amazing. That's a great plan.
I was suggesting it to a friend of mine, but now she's kind of continuing her rise up the hierarchy because she's much higher, and the higher you go, the more you get paid. But the higher you go, the more of an asshole you are also. Once you're above, like there are different grades, salary grades, and once you're above like 16, 18, you're pretty much like start dying inside.
That's funny.
But I'm a 6. The 6 is the bottom.
Okay.
That's fine. It's more than I've ever made, and
that's cool.
I'm not a family man, so my expenses are low. So that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah. Do you think you'll stay in your current place, or you're gonna move on up with your newfound gains?
Things are going to change no matter what. There's a family crisis at the moment.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I don't want to get into it, but
understandable.
My father is dying, and that means that my mother will. I don't know when, but when that happens, my mother will obviously need to move. I don't know. She's kind of half and half, but she will like to move out, and she's already eyeballing a place that she saw an ad for. And because she's the type that like, oh, I saw an ad, I'm interested in this. She's the perfect mark, really, sometimes. But and then she pushes the ads my way when it's something. Oh, I think you're interested in this. Really, really, really annoys me. But means things will change with the properties. We have 2 properties, and it's like, will they pass to they only pass to me and my brother if both of them are in the nursing home or something. But that's not happening. But the point is that will the property be sold? Will they just be given to me or something? I don't know. but I think I do want to move. I don't want to be on this block anymore, because I would want a different kind of building to settle in, and
Hmm.
invite others to start a collective. These aren't
Oh,
the right
cool.
building. This isn't the right. These two aren't the right row houses for it, in my mind. Or it takes substantial work,
Sure.
which I'm not going to do until I have more comrades
Cool.
involved that are for the long haul.
Yeah, yeah. But you
So,
want to
but
stick with the Albany
yeah,
area still?
yeah. There's nowhere else I'm really going to go unless it's some
Cool.
Vermont town, but it's not like everywhere. There's pros and cons. I think Bennington. I know a guy that seems to enjoy it there. That's very small though. But
I've never heard of Bennington, so
you didn't pass American history. There was a Revolutionary battle there.
maybe I did,
It's
memorize
very
that for
it's
like,
more
a test, and
more
then it went out of my
obscure.
brain
It
again.
was it was like a subset of Saratoga, I guess.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Well, so the Albany area is a tri-city area of around 1 million people. So it's a mid-sized metro area that's kind of it's a good size as a region. It's
Yeah.
ripe for bioregionalism if it was ever enacted. But like any northeast rural area, or if you go in rural areas, it's Trump country.
Hmm.
And but obviously you have like these Dem machine areas inside that are very corrupt and or just very stagnant.
Hmm.
And it's kind of aggressive. I'm just established here. Like I'm a local, and if I move somewhere else, like if I'm mad like everyone else, it's just I
Hmm.
have to start over, and I don't want to
Yeah.
do that. And
You'd have to find a new radio station to be a part of, and
yeah, some people like doing that, like or at least every 10 years they do it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I don't know, maybe when I'm 50, but it's just like the grass is always greener. I think every
Sure,
mid-sized
sure,
city
sure,
has
sure.
the same issues as Albany. When I
Yeah.
visit any other mid-sized city, let's say it's Providence,
Hmm.
Rhode Island, everything when I walk through there or any other like, and I'm not leaving the Northwest, by the way. So any other Northwest city, mid-sized or otherwise, has the same issues. Low employment opportunities, no industry, very low industry.
Right.
Any industry that does exist is big tech or something like it, very corporate.
Yep.
There's no mom and pop chip manufacturer,
Yeah.
and uh, and it's progressive enough. But oh yeah, but on my thing about the governor changing and things are able to happen, like there's something that occurred in New York. I just saw a headline about it. That was probably mentioned in her State of the State. So our new governor is Kathy Hochul. She was
Hmm.
Cuomo's lieutenant governor, and she was kind of picked because she was like a moderate M who was like folksy. But of course, being governor now, she has to be both a populist, folksy moderate and a leftist communist sympathizer, woke scold.
That's a
Um,
tough line to walk there.
but she's doing it, and she's gonna probably sail to to election, because that's the thing. She has
Mm-hmm.
to do enough favors so that she can be elected because she hasn't
Hmm.
been elected yet. So she has to make sure she's ingratiated and she does people favors so that the machine will then elect her. Um, and that's politics. That's how real politics actually occurs. Um, you got to have organization, or else you're just doing optics,
Yep.
which is kind of reverse of like, well, you need good optics in order to organize, and it's like, no, if you organize, people will like you
Yeah.
because you do stuff. I mean, that's why it's like you have people who do stuff and they're complete assholes, but they need their organization somehow. So it's like they're a boss. If you can do that with a team of anarchists, then you're off to the races. But I've never seen anarchists do that. Anyway, I'm off track again.
No.
So I want to point out that in New York, so get this. If you owe money to a college, maybe it's just the SUNY or the CUNY systems. CUNY is the New York City University system. And if you owed any money, then you couldn't get your transcripts from them. Like they wouldn't release your transcripts to you.
That's crazy.
Rule change with the governor was announced that now you can get your transcripts even if you owe them some money. Because
I mean, it seems like it would be in their best interest.
You'd think,
like how are you going to get the money if you can't get the job that you need your transcripts to get?
Cruelty is the default position.
Yeah,
that's capital. That's kind of how capitalism works. Cruelty and
Cruelty's the problem.
Inefficiency is actually the default. But yes, that's the. Oh yeah, Buffalo State. Okay. Hey, I'm visiting Buffalo in at the end of March. Maybe maybe try to get in touch with me and we can hang. But I'm going there to hang with an artist friend of mine, so who goes to Buffalo U at the moment, grad program. But anyway, so yeah, so that's the little minor tweaks that counts as big like reforms in New York, basically being a little less cruel. Never mind big policy like someone's mentioning paid family care leave, or guaranteed vacation time for the whole for all workers. That's something
with the tax base of New York State, you'd think you could do some pretty big social programs if you really wanted to. It wouldn't take that much.
But the tax base is Wall Street based. They're not going to let any of that money go.
Right. That's very true.
The constant argument is that if you ever do tax them, they will leave New York.
They will leave. And people
now,
fall for that
the irony of this is that they've already moved their money out of New York. All the corporations and whatever already do that. But so what's kind of left is to tax the rich people themselves. And they can move across state lines because they can go to Connecticut, Delaware, Jersey, whatever, and then they're not in New York. So it's because we're not like a big state that's all encompassing. It's like you can with especially with the metro area, you can just commute an hour train or whatever the fuck. They've effectively undercut any income tax. But this is where you like single payer healthcare in New York is based off of payroll taxes. So as long as you work in New York, you're paying payroll taxes. And the constant refrain that I have to tell even supposedly progressive people that should be on board, that's like, look, even if your payroll taxes will go up, you will be paying $5,000 less in healthcare,
right,
than you currently do for health insurance.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they'll go, oh, really? They'll still be incredulous. But
not to mention you have one big entity that can then negotiate drug prices, so those would go down as well, assumedly. So
New York Health Act has many, many positives. But the bank head against the wall activism with that is that and this is something that's probably encountered in California, where they continue to not bring that to a vote, or keep canceling the vote. At least it was brought to a vote in New York, but it wasn't brought to a vote in the Senate, just the Assembly a few times and passed. But it can only be passed as long as they know that it won't be for a vote in the Senate. As soon as it could have been, then there either wasn't a vote. Yeah, there wasn't a vote because all the people that would vote for it wouldn't again. That's the Democratic Party for you. Where the story is that like there's a certain number of Democratic socialists, but like they're like surprised how corrupt it is. So it's like we actually need to double our numbers if we're going to have an impact, which is kind of funny. But Hochul's there's going to be a primary if you're still a Democrat at this point. But Jawama Williams, who's
Hmm.
a bit of a firebrand, he's a Democratic Socialist DSA type. He'll be challenging Hochul. So we've gone from progressive celebrity types running for governor in the primary to an actual activist politician. So that's
Something.
something like progress. We'll
That's
see how
something. Yeah.
see if he actually pulls in as like all the votes that Cynthia Nixon and Zephyr Teachout did, which was just 30% of the primary
Yeah, it
vote,
was not
which
not
was
even
still
close
really
to
bad.
right.
I was like, how do you guys still think you're making a difference when you're just getting a third of the
Just pulling
primary vote?
30%. Yeah.
And it's all just middle class state workers
Hmm.
and the white vote, basically. Being able, because all their campaigns were Facebook and social media and alternative media based,
Yeah.
and you're not reaching the streets with that. Which,
Right.
but Democratic block captains and other politicos and community leaders that are in the machines are their word does reach everybody in the street, and they say, well,
Right.
Como's still doing an okay job, and or whatever, and as far as they're concerned, but political literacy and all the other stuff we've covered over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I've talked enough. Did you have anything else? What else did you want to cover for your state of the stream?
I was just kind of look back in general at some of the themes that we've covered, some of the
Hmm.
theory that we've covered. And so the first big one was, of course, the conquest of bread, which took
Hmm.
quite a few weeks to finish. But I got to have a lot of different guests on, got to have a lot of different opinions. I think that was actually the first time that you were on.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we
I
go.
was on at least three
Chapter
times.
5, part 1. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because we went so long, it was he had to do multiple chapters,
right.
multiple episodes per
Multiple
chapter.
episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So we've covered quite a few different texts over the past year. We got the Conquest of Bread, Communist Manifesto. Let's see, where's my other playlist here? We did the Principles of Communism. We did um, State and Revolution. We did a couple of David Graeber essays. And then we had a whole section on New Urbanism, which is a lot of your appearances as well.
Oh yeah.
So that was
I
good stuff
was
too.
I definitely prefer essays because you can read a lot of essays and get a lot of different perspectives
Right.
that can build on each other. That's kind of how I do my
Absolutely.
show. Um, and my last episode, not my last one, but my last left theory, the left
Hmm.
strategy episode, had basically four different essays, each from each basically main tendency. Um, so
Sure.
I did like a Jacobin essay,
Hmm.
an ML essay, an eco anarchist essay, and then a essay from someone like us, who was active both in mutual aid encampments in New York while also critiquing the strategy of autonomism and
Hmm.
just doing mutual aid and prefigurative politics, which my conclusion is like do prefigurative politics because that's educational and it's about showing people that our ideas work. But that prefigurative projects like doing permaculture is not the project itself. The project is to gain power and control the state,
Right.
to smash capitalism and make our prefigurative politics the norm. And the point of prefigurative is that we'll have half of the people, on board.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's one of the greatest strengths for that sort of a strategy is just giving people that practice, that history with being a part of government, even if it's in a very small way, and accomplishing things locally. But
but the other thing to learn from the essays was that when we do try to take power, let's say it's electorally, that we can get with an independent party like Marxist,
right.
because our previous generations, Boomers and Gen Xers, they would be doing prefigurative politics from 1975 onward,
Hmm.
because what was just as now, it's able to do without getting smashed back by capital or the police,
Right.
unless you are doing it in a legalist fashion. But but they would do it, and then they would kind of change minds from community to be more community minded. But then they'd either run as Democrats or accept that you could only run for office or do politics locally through the Democratic Party. And I'm just talking about urban cities.
Mm.
Um, and even now they'll just say like, well, it's the only thing you could have done. There's no. But I'm like, no, we got to do it as Greens, so that when
Mhm.
we do things differently, we can actually do it differently, because we're
Yeah.
not beholden to the Democratic Party machine and the corporate power that's behind it. When Greens take office, like I don't know if you've heard the news story. It's new, brand news. Scotland has just nationalized the railroads,
Oh, I had not heard that.
or they've renationalized them. And
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
only possible. My assumption is that the Greens gain more seats, and
Hmm.
working with the left-leaning Scottish National Party,
Sure.
that is left to center, Social Democrats, they nationalized the railroads,
That's amazing.
deprivatized them. Yeah, and I think that was only
Yeah,
possible through the gains that the Greens have made in Scotland that I read about the prior year. Same
I
in
would say that's probably true.
some Germany, there the Greens gained, though not enough to say there was a victory, but it does change the dynamic that the Christian Democrats aren't completely dominant anymore.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, we definitely have some more structural hurdles in a non-parliamentary system here
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
overcome. But anyone that can't see the that the Democrats are never going to allow the sort of change we want has not been paying attention to,
Yeah, but
like
you
even the
can.
last couple national elections. Uh,
So
so
if you could just to remind people that it is possible to win locally, elected 12,
right,
at least 1,400 local officers,
it's amazing.
various types. Sometimes they were appointed, and sometimes it was literally to like a
Sure, sure,
water department uh, clerk or something, or usually something that was nonpartisan, but they were Green Party members.
sure, sure, sure.
Um,
A win is a win, though, and
yeah,
I
school
like that
board and
kind of
stuff.
bottom up grassroots strategy. Anyway, I think it has more
But the other thing I wanted to
long
state
term
was
potential.
that the big reform to focus on for a
Hmm.
democracy movement is multi-party. I mean, the non-multi-party districts, multi-member districts. So
Oh,
even
okay,
if it was all nonpartisan, that would be fine. If as long as it's multi-member, because that's what solves the gerrymander problem. It solves the spoiler effect problem. It solves
yep,
all
yeah,
the fucking things people complain about our elections, and all the other kind of types of reforms that are still marginal, like ranked choice ballots. I think
right.
is not good enough. It has to be multi-member, because that's what
Well,
Europe and other
it's yeah,
what the real true difference between other parliamentary democracies and us is the multi-member district, because it means that you have a district and it isn't just one person that everyone's voting for, that you're voting for people, and that's
so
how you
it's
actually.
more proportional representation or
Yeah,
closer to that sort
yeah,
of a system.
that's what it leads to. Even at like
That's cool.
in the UK, it's like you're not you're voting for just the party. Party will put up the candidates
They'll put in as many
and
as
say,
they
yeah,
get percentage of
right.
the vote for. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
right. So
like
people
that.
are
Yeah.
still voting for individuals like they like to, but
Uh huh.
you're also voting for the party, which isn't usually
Yeah,
the
yeah.
case.
And you think that's a change that can be affected in America at the local level, at least?
I actually don't know how it would be enacted. I think it would probably need to go on the
Yeah.
state level.
State
Like
level. Okay.
in Maine, they were able to get ranked choice ballots, though of course it was fought by the courts um, with Republican backing. So, but even when they had ranked choice as a case study, how effective that is as like a breakthrough reform,
Hmm.
it did not really help the Green Party in Maine.
Interesting.
At least not yet. So maybe there's an argument to be made that
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
take like another cycle before
Hmm.
people get that they can vote for someone else.
Yeah. I wonder what
I mean,
the
vote
holdback
outside the
was.
duopoly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in the Senate race in Maine, the Green Party got the same like 3% they usually do, and we had a great
Hmm.
candidate. Well, I donated a lot of fund, good amount of funding. Wasn't a bad campaign. There were debates, but the Republican like geriatric who literally like talks like she has a stroke, super old. What's her name? It starts with an M, but she still won handily,
Sure.
and it's kind of. I mean, but I think they won locally in Portland, but they won a city council seat. But I think
Hmm.
that would have happened without the ranked choice either way, or maybe it did and it helped. But it's just like the whole like spoiler effect argument. Like I think the people who
Yeah.
care about that are Dems who just hate the Greens,
Yeah. Yeah. They just want them
and
to shut up so they can just
or Republicans that
keep the system
want
in place.
who hate the Libertarians.
Yeah, I think I'd say the libertarians are even weaker
Yeah.
than the Greens are. But
That's interesting because sometimes it seems by numbers it seems like they're stronger, especially by money, because
I
they
mean,
have.
there's probably a lot of people that would call themselves a libertarian that probably just end up voting
Republican.
run of the mill Republican anyway because
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Well,
what's really the difference? They're both
just
working for capital interests.
well, to me, that's just like socialists that vote for Democrats.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because they don't maybe because they don't see the Greens as being socialists, which I can understand, but that's
Sure.
because like with most of alternative or independent media, they still ignore the Greens completely.
Oh yeah.
Um, Dorr interviewed Hawkins once, but mostly to challenge him. It wasn't a friendly interview. Ron Clone talks to Howie, and he's the only exception. Ron Clone, he was like a
Hmm.
co-host of Jimmy Dore, but maybe
Oh okay. Hadn't
he's
even heard his
split.
name.
He's probably more split off in the last year. I don't know what the relationship right now, but Ron Clone does um, more Green Party events and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Even still, Jimmy Dore, for all of his presence on the left, is not exactly a national figure. So,
no, no. And but that's why it would matter more to me if, like, say, Vosh or Hassan talked to Howie.
oh,
Even
that would be incredible.
even though they're not so much interviewers, but Vosh certainly should have. But Vosh was
Yeah.
such a ride or die Biden. What was
Oh
it
yeah.
called? Biden or
And
bust, I guess.
anarcho
Bustin' Biden. It
Bidenist.
was, or, yeah, yeah, narco Bidenist. Yeah, that was. He actually coined that, didn't he?
I think
Um,
so.
he
I
did,
think so.
but yeah, he was a narco Bidenist, and so he was not interested in that at all. It seemed to be a stretch just to be a Bernie fan, which is so
Hmm.
odd. But he was trying to get his audience, that's such red pill alt writers, I guess, just to introduce them to liking Bernie, I
Right.
suppose, was his goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
He was definitely coming from the angle that Trump was an existential threat and that we
oh yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Whenever
just
you would
needed to
repeat that,
support,
yeah,
you know,
we need to
whoever's the
get rid of Trump.
strongest.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's
I
where
can understand that.
can you see why it's so easy to call him a liberal then? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
as
for
Sean
sure.
was doing. Was it Sean or
Probably.
yeah?
Sean seems to
But
be another one of
but
those
it did
figures
not
that
help that the dirtbag left would like say once Bernie lost, they had nothing. Like they were just not going to vote at all. So they were like,
yeah.
"Yeah, I'm not voting for Biden,
Yeah.
but I'm not also to them Howie didn't
That was
exist,
it. Yeah,
which
yeah.
was they wouldn't even make jokes about him. Like they wouldn't reference him. It was so. I've ranted about this before, but
Well, it's just incredible. Like
that's the hole I go
even
down.
comparing Howie to like Jill Stein, like I think Howie really gets it in a way that even Stein did not. Like that he was an amazing orator. I think the first time I
Yeah.
heard him speak was actually when you covered one of his conferences. Where I don't even remember
Hmm.
what the event was. It was like
Well, it was
GPUSA
likely
sort of thing.
it was the national
Yeah,
convention.
yeah. But
Yeah.
man, like just it was like, who is this guy? Why have I not heard of this guy before? Because like every single point, I was like, yes,
Because
absolutely,
he would be an actual threat.
yeah,
He would actually get people excited for socialism,
mm-hmm,
not just democratic socialism, but like
yeah. Not just a
um
band aid for capitalism's
not
bullet
yeah,
wounds.
because he's an actual socialist, not
Right.
a
He
like
was pretty upfront about that too. I was like,
an
wow.
actual trot, like a trot, but whatever.
Hey, that counts.
Kind of.
That still counts.
I know. I'm just putting it out there for the MLs or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Like, would make excuses not to like him. But that's why also he chose as his running mate Angela Walker, who's an SP member.
Mhm.
And so like, and a black woman. So like everything that he is, which is this old, aging white union guy,
Mhm.
um, obviously Walker made up for that, with her charisma and stuff. And she
Mhm.
ran for
Yeah.
sheriff in Minnesota and whatever. But the point is
Oh, really?
that that all this so-called left-wing media would not actually talk to a real left-wing presidential candidate. Um, they had to be pressed into just talking to Jill Stein in 2016, and
Yeah.
they
It's
all
pretty much just
accepted the line that that was all a mistake.
right.
That they
Um,
were actually like they're Democratic saps at the end of the day if they're
mhm.
going to take that line that that was all like Trump. We helped Trump win by talking to
Mhm.
Jill Stein
Yeah.
and getting her to 1% vote.
1% of the vote. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything to deflect criticism away from
Yeah, and Jill
their star
Stein is
ability.
like, I think she was much stronger than candidates because she was a little self-funded. She isn't poor,
Mhm.
but she's an activist. But just like it, you got a sense of just how what an underdogs we really are, and you think that if you want to be an underdog or you see yourself as such, and you want to be on the edge lord side of things, that you should back the Greens because it was so easy, so quick that to turn Jill Stein, a doctor who's an
Mhm.
activist, whose main
Mhm.
activism has been health issues,
Right.
into an anti-vax like
Yeah.
5G hate and denier,
Oh,
health
they were
science
looking for any.
denier. But the
They were
fact
just
that they were
mining quotes
the
to turn her into that.
alternative
Yeah.
independent media was quick to do whatever like the mainstream was doing, the corporate media was doing,
I would say
and
aside from
slander her.
Democracy Now, I think Democracy Now was like her one ardent defender that they're obviously not mainstream media, but they
Hmm.
about as close as the left has to a mainstream media channel.
Yeah, I guess.
So I mean,
Um,
she ran the alternative debates between him and or between her and whoever the libertarian candidate was. Was it Gary Johnson that time?
Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
But wonder of wonders, even Democracy Now would not talk to Howie. So,
Did they really not talk to him throughout that whole campaign? I was definitely focused elsewhere,
you
but
know what? I'll look it
yeah,
up
I wouldn't be
because
surprised if you're right.
I want to be right about this because I recall a posting or a or a rant by our basically the Howie campaign's media person about
Sure.
how like we've asked everyone to interview us, probably including Joe Rogan too, and because this whole thing of like
Yeah.
who was it? It was a fellow old socialist that I'm associated with, and he's like on the Joe Rogan defense bandwagon for some reason,
Mm.
and saying like, why aren't left wingers asking to be on his show if you're so concerned about him being balanced? I'm like, what, you
Right.
think we aren't asking him? You
Yeah.
think um, Richard Wolff isn't asking to be on Joe Rogan? Why isn't
Yeah.
he on Joe Rogan show every year?
That's true. Why not?
Because he's not backed by a billionaire, apparently,
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
kook
Yeah.
that's propagated. I mean, that's what's frustrating. My complaint about Joe Rogan isn't that he isn't woke. If he's just an
Oh yeah.
actual neutral Larry King style interviewer, that's
Yeah.
great. He is the average
Sure.
Joe.
Uh huh.
But if he's going to have 80% right wingers, he is no different than Fox News. That's why
Right.
liberals are rightfully hating on him, and
Yeah.
I would hate on him because he's Fox News. He's he's basically Fox News. 20% of the time, he'll have like a great pro worker take, like Tucker Carlson. He'll
Mm-hmm.
sound leftist for just a smidge.
For a second. Yeah.
And then there'll be another 2 hours of like reactionary, like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what do these snowflakes do? I don't
Yeah.
get this social issue thing. Let's talk to another comedian
true.
about it. But I mean, it's okay if it's all just comedians, but it isn't just comedians. He's talking
No,
to
no.
media personalities like Ben Shapiro every year.
Oh, and most recently Jordan Peterson, where he gave him just a complete,
Yeah, right.
almost
But
completely uncritical platform to spout
now, yeah,
anti-climate nonsense and
and
whatnot.
it's
So,
strange to see even like other comrades saying like, "Whoa, he defenders basically saying,
mm.
"Whoa, he interviewed Jimmy Dore and Tulsi Gabbard
Oh,
and
oh,
well, no, actually, the good example was the Empire Files, Abby Martin. He had Abby Martin on,
hmm.
and like that's a good example.
Yeah,
That's a good
Abby Warren's a good one.
exception, but
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
an exception. Proves the rule.
yeah, yeah.
If he was having all of our different left wing media personalities, like
Uh-huh.
Richard Wolff, like Zizek, that would be
That would be
entertaining. Imagine 3
amazing.
hours of him talking to
Oh,
Zizek.
it would kill.
His
Yeah,
audience would eat it up.
yeah,
So it's not
absolutely.
like it wouldn't be entertaining content, but he
No.
doesn't do it. So I have to assume there's some kind of bias at work here.
Hmm.
Corporate, mainstream, lowest common denominator,
Hmm.
billionaire media empire fueled bullshit. So as far as I'm concerned, Rogan is mainstream media now because he
I
is a
mean, yeah.
corporation. Someone else was making this argument. I think it was just Hassan. So Hassan is who I'm listening to most, I guess. It was like, okay,
Me
is
too.
mainstream defined as listenership? If it's by most listeners, then Rogan wins. If it's
Absolutely.
by money, well, he's a million. He's just any MSNBC
Multimillionaire.
host. So
Uh-huh.
it's not a matter of whether he's rich or not. Is it because is he he's a business? So is he independent because he's a business? But how big does a
Yeah,
business have
no,
to be
not
or
at all.
not have to be? By most metrics, it's except that he's not elite educated. Is that the metric we're
Uh-huh.
using? That he doesn't have a journalism
Maybe
degree?
so.
An interviewer
Maybe
doesn't
so.
need to have a degree in journalism. I don't know what education Larry King had, but you know,
I I
because
don't think actually
a
that
few
much.
a few years ago, I would describe Joe Rogan as being our generation's Larry King, but Larry King would interview everybody for the most part, or somewhat
Oh yeah.
balanced. It would feel balanced anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's what drives me nuts about this conversation, that it goes down all these other routes about like his wokeness, or because everyone's either acting like a woke liberal and looking at things
Mm.
just on the surface with the aesthetics,
Right.
as
Right.
Chapo would point out, that
Hmm.
being on his show would matters, because it doesn't really. Like I think the Chapo was making this point that like it was some game changer that Bernie was endorsed by Rogan. Didn't seem to primary at all, because when it came to
Yeah,
South
unfortunately.
Carolina, no one in South Carolina listens to Rogan apparently,
I guess
or all the
not.
Joe Rogan listenership don't vote, or something like that.
Or they just listen a lot more to Jim Clyburn and whatever he says. So um yeah,
Oh
I did
yeah,
want to address one of the comments there. Radical Disability was talking about how he said that Bernie could have handed the endorsement to Howie, but he didn't, and that's why you're not into electoralism. I can definitely see not being into electoralism, at least at the national level, because there is so little influence that any sort of anything outside of the two-party duopoly has. But at the local level, at the very least, there's a lot that can be done just from getting a seat on city council or on like the parks board or any number of things that can make real change.
you'll probably
Um,
disagree with me, Radical Disability, but I wouldn't say that Bernie not endorsing Howie is an electoralism problem. It's a Democratic sheepdog problem.
yeah, that too. That too.
That's a problem with Bernie or the particular politics of the DSA are practiced. That you can have a seat at the Democratic Party table so long as you basically never talk to anyone to your left or
Right.
empower them at all.
And also agree to endorse whoever the Democrats finally decide on.
You're right.
So,
As Bernie
yep.
would say, the whole primary, because it was one of the things they would hammer him on. Like, are you going to endorse
Yep.
are you going to endorse the person who beat you? They would ask him that
Uh-huh.
at every debate. And he would have to say, yes, of course I will endorse. In fact, we had to change his registration to Democrat. He was no longer independent,
Right.
or no party.
I think that was definitely part of his bargain that
And
he
that was
struck to be able
right.
to do that.
To be able to run again in the first place, because they probably would have found
Right.
a way of suing him and banning him from running. And but that's what's freeing about being third party, and it incenses me no end that the polls that are constantly being brought up, that half of Americans want a third party.
Yeah.
Okay, are they going to support one? Are
Yeah.
they going to discover one? They have to be told that it's okay to support a third party by their favorite personality. What would it take? And obviously, it's more of like the follow-up question needs to be asked: what kind of third party are you looking for? And of course, a good portion of that are like, oh, I want a moderate third. I want a middle ground between the two poles, the two extremes of Republican and Democrat. But there again, there are sections that also want things that are more extreme, and so, but it's like, okay, you want to see a third party, and this is where like Dorr, like I thought he had some integrity, because he would constantly harp about like he wouldn't just be a Dem basher. He would he would interview Greens, at least when they were in his area, and Howie once. But not again. That's what kind of bothered me. There would just be once, and then he was like one and done. There, I did.
Yeah.
And and he wouldn't talk to Howie again, because like he challenged, like he didn't like him. Which is that was like strike one, where it's like, okay, weird. And what was the okay, I lost my train.
Yeah, no problem.
So but someone asked about Marianne Wilson.
Oh yeah,
Nancy Kappa 65.
Marianne Williams. Yeah.
Williamson.
That's Natalie. That's her name.
Oh, Natalie. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You go first.
You know, I didn't really form a strong opinion when she was running for the Democratic ticket, because I was more focused on Bernie, I think. But in subsequent speeches that I've gotten bits of, I tend to like what she says. She sounds a lot like a Green Party candidate in many ways. There's only been a couple of takes that I've veered from it all. So yeah, she seems to be intelligent and have some good opinions politically. What are your thoughts, Dan?
I would prefer her as a new age capitalist.
Yeah.
Embodying all of the values and aesthetics of the old left, meaning our old left, the new left in the 60s. But also all the transformations they've gone through since then, which includes yuppies she's like a yuppie. She's a grown-up yuppie. Which I am making that sound like a negative thing. It's obviously, if all Democrats were like her, then it would still be a three-way fight, because at the end of the day, she's a capitalist. But she wants a better, nicer, evolved capitalism. I think she would work that into all of her appearances. That's like, we can still fix things. We just need to be human. Like, okay, you want a humanistic capitalism? That's not that's socialism. No, it's not. It wouldn't be capitalism anymore. It's like saying you want, a prison system that respects human rights. And that's the contradiction of Marianne Wilson, which occurs in all New Age politics. That if you actually come at them or represent communist values, they'll go reactionary real fast, because you'll be challenging her millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, I think also there's a huge undercurrent of like hyper individualism that runs through a lot of the New Age movement.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
all
what was
about
it?
your
Her political
own
platform
story.
had a lot of cool stuff, but it was like, she also was like, I'm the love candidate. Which is
That
just super.
That did not help her public image.
That's super New Age. Super New Age. And Green Party, we're all like the peace platform, peace dividend, all the non-intervention stuff. But we couch it as like effective and cheap cheaper and just better, just more sensible. We don't count
Right.
it in terms of feeling. Actually, that's
Yeah.
I think we work hard to avoid the feeling based politics, which we're usually associated with because the Greens have a cohort of New Agers within.
Sure.
But like I said, they're either my agenda is to push them out, see them all rage quit, as we endorse vaccine mandates and other such things that drive them crazy,
Yeah.
as they fight for healthcare choice,
Yeah.
which
Again, that hyper individualism that keeps
yeah,
cropping up.
yeah, I hate it, and it's antithetical to doing socialist politics. So it's
Agreed.
kind of
Yeah.
the other, and I think we outnumber them in the Greens now. So, but it's got to take time before they either rage quit, but they know that they do not want to participate in the duopoly, so they're smart enough, they're smart and respectable enough for that, and to have that position. But they also, so they kind of, it's almost the same problem as being a Dem and a socialist. There's no, where else can you go? You know,
Right.
there's no New Age or party. That's what the Greens felt like when they joined, and they
Right.
dominated it in the '90s, in the aughts, and that's why it could only do anything when Nader landed it, because he
Mm-hmm.
was someone
He
everyone
was a
knew
big
and
enough
respected.
name. Yeah.
But he's the ultimate individualist as well. Well, he isn't, but personally, he's an individualist because he wouldn't join, he wouldn't be a
Yeah.
member, and that is representative of a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'll vote Green Party. I like the Greens. Will you pay dues? Will you help with a campaign?" And then you get a lot of wishy-washy, behavior. Or no, sorry, no, yeah, but wishy-washy behavior. Let me define that: the individualistic, which is Nader's view of being a free agent. That in American democracy, everyone's a free agent. You don't want to be tied down because then you're oppressed. If you have to commit to a side, and to be free, you need to be free to choose in an election. So it's like, well, if I choose to be a Green, then I don't have the freedom to vote in other primaries or feel like I'm some free agent. I have a
Sure.
side. That means I have to like. It's almost like there's this lie propagated that if you join the Greens, you can only vote for Greens, or if you're a Dem, then you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to vote for Dems.
Right.
But
Right.
I guess it's like sports politics in that way. But um, it's kind of like it feels like all or nothing. Like if you join the Greens, because it actually, in some way, socially, it does mean that if you're Green Party, you can't associate with Dems, and if you're a Dem, you cannot associate with Greens, which isn't totally true, but when it counts, it feels like it, which is kind of how it feels like with, as long as you have DSAers that will not divorce from the Dems,
Mm-hmm.
then they will not help or endorse Greens. But there were 3 chapters of DSA chapters that endorsed Howie, but only
Oh,
3.
really?
But
I didn't
only
know there were any.
3.
I thought there was something about the way that they were conceived of in the first place, that they only wanted to endorse
Well, that's the
mainline
national. That's the
candidates.
national side, but obviously
Okay.
there are some locals that were been formed in the last 4 years that are more socialist than democratic socialist, and those are the ones that endorsed Howie. But there was just 3 of them. There was like one in Denver, the Philly one, I think, and maybe a
Hmm.
third. But
Well, I mean, damn, good for
but
them.
but
Like,
majority of the chapters did what most of the dirtbag left and leftists did, which was, we will not endorse anyone. We will
yeah,
ask
just
people
kind
to
of check out.
vote their conscience,
Yeah.
which, funnily enough, was one of Jill Stein's slogans. Vote your
Mm-hmm.
conscience. Vote for
Mm-hmm.
me, because your
Mm-hmm.
conscience should be telling you that if you're anti-war,
Mm-hmm.
anti-Wall Street, and so on. Let's see. I have heard that the Green Party can't get on the ballot still in a number of states, many states. One is Ohio
Mm-hmm.
that I know of. So how can they ever win? Well, the same way that any other movement has won anything, which is that they build up and they win the possible, like you win the ballot status, by winning enough local races and building
Mm-hmm.
up organization. When your organization is big enough or strong enough, you can do anything. And that means it makes everything easy, but you have to build that organization first. So that's kind of
Right.
the big puzzle, the big step. And it's a lot of work. And that's something a lot of leftists are either because they're already working very, very hard for capitalism, or we're just anathema to. So, but instead of making excuses like we can't win, but the thing is, everything you could say about the Green Party not being able to win, you could say about all leftism. How can
Right.
leftism ever win? There's just so many rules in our way.
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't stop revolution or revolts from happening.
Right.
Did laws stop, the uprising 2020? How could they ever win?
No,
But of course, they
helped
didn't.
in many ways.
You could
Yeah.
say that about anything. How can it ever win?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we've lost a lot of ballot status. We were gaining ballots in several states. We had up to 28, but we lost several of them. Do you know why? Because no one voted for Howie.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these hurdles put in place. Democrats. So whenever socialists vote for Democrats, you're helping to make sure that we can never win. So that's kind of where I'm like, here's how we can win or have a better chance of winning. You, fellow comrades and socialists, stop helping Dems. Stop helping them destroy your side, and convincing yourself that you're helping Republicans get away with things, because
Right.
they're doing fine. Just the Dems help them with that just enough, just fine.
Yeah.
Now, and I'll remind Radical Disability that the Greens actually have a disability caucus.
Oh, they do. I did not know that.
Yeah, we have several
That's
caucuses.
amazing.
So that you don't actually have to be part of a state party. You can be part of a caucus. So, which gives you, by the way, caucuses have the same voting rights in our convention as states.
Really?
Yeah. But you have
Very
to be
cool.
part of a caucus. You can't just be some free agent. But yeah, we have our Lavender Caucus, which is the queer one, and a Women's Caucus, and a Black Caucus, and a Latinx Caucus, and a few others, I suppose. And yeah, but it's not enough to just not vote for Dems. You got to vote for something. And the Greens consistently, and Socialist Party too, give you someone to vote for.
Right.
Even if we have no chance of winning. But I point to a meme from Idiocracy. It's like, oh, they'll never win. But what if everyone voted for them? No one will vote for them. Why not? Because they'll never win.
Because they'll never win. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like the largest voting constituency in national elections is the I didn't vote constituency.
Yeah.
So
that's why
have...
spoiler argument's bullshit, because when we do outreach, we are, at least this is definitely our thinking is always to outreach to those of no party, and but active voters, but no party status.
Right.
Or people who don't vote but are registered. And what else did I want to mention on that front?
I don't know.
Of course you wouldn't, but it's a long road, and
it is.
And it always, especially this cycle, I'm demoralized because we have taken a step backward. Like what can we do when it's when the presidency is open? We do better. We get that 1%, 3%. We want to get to 5% because that gets us more money. But at this moment, the election reform bill the Democrats are putting forward actually rips out the extra funding pot that would go to other candidates, like third party presidential, like that we qualify for extra funds if we get the 5%. Democrats are actually looking to remove that. You know, with
Is
every
this at the
reform,
national level or
yeah,
state level?
yeah,
National
with
level.
every reform the Democrats like propose for elections,
Yeah.
in the text is always something that screws any other alternative from existing.
Uh-huh.
So if the Greens
I
need to transform into a revolutionary vanguard party like the Bolsheviks, it's
mhm.
fine. I'll work for that. But we need more vanguardists to join to do that. But the some a little artifact anecdote that even in the what was it, in the Russian provisional government after the February Revolution, but before the November one, there was a Duma. No, actually, no, even before that, the Duma, the Bolsheviks had elected representatives to the Duma, and yeah, they couldn't pass any legislation in the Tsar's government, but having somebody in Congress would help a lot of leftists out because those Duma members were able to like get certain leaders out of jail.
Yeah.
They were able to pull some strings. So just one green or socialist representative, like an actual one that will
Could do
vote
a
against
lot. Yeah.
not AOC, someone who actually votes against democratic like budgets and shit.
Right.
Even if they don't, even if they vote no on everything, which they probably should,
Hmm.
to be intransigent and to point out that every decision Congress makes is bullshit and hurts people.
Hmm.
Um, that's that's
Yeah.
that's the rallying cry of that to to get us green. So I guess like so what district would like could a green run like win it? Don't not
True.
sure, but
But I think
yeah.
too that is one of the strongest arguments for engaging in electoralism. It's that even if, yes, we live in a bourgeois democracy and we're not likely to just vote socialism into being, at the very least, we're keeping really terrible people out of the seats of power that they could otherwise do a whole lot more damage in. So even if we're just saying no to, like you're saying, if you're saying no to every single bill that passes, standing in the way of things, at the very least,
It's monkey wrenching.
we're yeah, it's a form of sabotage, really. Um, Saying that,
I'll give you an example of like that gives hope to like on a congressional level. We had in the North Country here in New York, we had a congressional candidate who ran 2 cycles in a row, which
mhm,
is 2-year cycles. His name's Matt Funicello, and he is not like a full socialist, but he was a baker who's in a bakery. He paid living wages. He he did everything that like a democratic socialist would do, and I would classify him as democratic socialist. And he what did he get? I think he got 12% the first time he ran, and 25% the second time he ran. And then I
that's
think he
incredible.
tried a third time, and he got less.
Mm,
But or maybe it was 25 the first time and 12 the second time. But regardless, he got a quarter of the vote, and this is because his messaging was primarily like what left right unite types actually want to do, not the fake bullshit that Jimmy Dore talks about, but talking, having messaging, Medicare for all, in a way that actually appeals regardless of their aesthetics,
right.
almost neutral in aesthetics. His pitch would be that like you already pay for Medicare for all. We pay
Hmm.
for our health care, but you're not getting it. With
Right.
Medicare for all, you pay and you get it.
Yeah.
And he would be declared by the local papers in the Adirondacks the winner of every debate. And one of them endorsed him. And this he did especially well because both of the major party candidates were out of district hacks who had summer homes in the Adirondacks. So anyone who actually was like, I want a third party, I hate both or whatever, or like they were complete partisan dead voters,
Hmm.
voted for him, and it didn't matter that he was a green, but he's a local. And given a better situation, more money, um, you go from if keep in mind a quarter doesn't seem like enough, but it's within striking distance of the 33% that is a third. And in a three-way race, you only need 35%. If it is truly three ways, because it's always split,
Yep.
with the parties.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You don't need 51% when you're third party. You only need 35%.
35%. That's a good point.
And that seems way more attainable when you think about it that way.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's my 2 cents with that.
Yeah, you make a good argument. Yeah, I feel like it's probably about time for me to start getting into green politics again. I did it a lot in college, got kind of disillusioned with the whole process, and haven't really come back
What
to
year?
it yet.
What
But
year was that?
so it was my undergraduate, so it was like 2002 to '07, basically. I
Yeah,
was like,
those are hard times for
those are hard
Greens.
times. Yeah,
I wasn't
that was
involved.
The Bush
I
years.
wasn't
So
I wasn't involved at all at the time because I was still in high school. Um, but yeah, it was '04 was a disaster.
yeah,
And '08 wasn't too much better. And this is because working off of like we're trying to please all of the progressives, saying don't
right.
Greens just need to just run in safe states. Okay, so we ran just safe states. Disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Greens should
Mm-hmm.
just run in local elections. Okay, we did. Disaster. Couldn't win any ballot lines that way. Because a lot of the ballot line, like we can only get a ballot line by doing enough petitioning, and that requires national or state campaigns.
It's like a catch-22 at that point.
Sort of, and it doesn't help that we truly are an anti-democracy in America. To call us a republic is really quite insulting because we have barriers to entry for participation
Yeah,
that no
yeah.
other country has. Um,
Really? There's not a common thing in other countries.
no,
Hmm.
no, like you need thousands and thousands of
Yeah, yeah.
even on a local
Mm-hmm.
level, it could take 1,000 signatures,
Oh, okay.
and depending on where you are, but even in New York, and
Hmm. Uh-oh, you froze there. Your signal dropped all of a sudden. Okay.
yeah,
Looks like you're
it seems to be like
struggling to
that
come
almost.
back.
Am I back? I'm not back.
Not quite. It's a very
There's
weak
no.
signal still.
Oops.
Uh-oh. Now you're frozen completely. But Natalie did have a good point there, talking about how people with an HMO and a $12,000 deductible effectively don't have health care. And I mean, that alone should be reason for anyone, because even people that have just average health care in America usually have a few $1,000 deductible, which means up until that point, except for things like routine and emergency care, uh, you're going to be paying out of pocket anyway. With a universal system, that gets rid of all that bullshit. Like everyone just has healthcare at that point. Um, oh, we've lost Dan completely. Hopefully he'll be able to get back on. But we'll see. We can continue chatting though. In the meantime, I'm not sure what happened with his connection there, but I just all of a sudden dropped off. Um, but yeah, and Dan was bringing up how if you frame things in a way that are somewhat neutral, I guess, is a way of putting it. Oh, here we go. Here's Dan back again. All right. Looks like you got a stronger connection now.
My
Abruptly
entire
froze
internet
it.
just dropped for some reason.
Oh, that's what happened.
Something got
uh,
unplugged, I guess. I don't know. But
oh, that sucks.
oh yeah, so I want it's a minor point, but like unions in New York Health, um, which is single payer health care, that we have right now, that the unions and being pro-union worker strike doesn't, at least when it comes to being business unions. Again,
just for a second, you're back though.
As long as they're business unions, at least they are reactionary, and they work. All the unions are actually not only neutral; they're against single-payer healthcare. Why? This is in the hearing that they work hard for the healthcare plan that they get their members, and it would be a disservice and a downgrade for the membership if New York Health was in. That makes me and some of my other comrades Steve with it.
It's just so cynical and self-serving.
Yeah, and not to mention they curiously gave ground to Como and were his bitch the last 8 years, mostly out of fear and that he would cut even more. The thing, they were, even when they played ball, he wouldn't allow them to hire more, and this is while boomers have been retiring, so that's like holes to fill. So yeah, so it was the we're going to see Radical Disability talking about this is a fairly common talking that when the last time, whatever the last time pair was a national conversation. That healthcare, health insurance, and we should just get.
You're breaking up again, Dan.
As anyone privileged does, that they deserve better, just like the veterans should have better.
Hold on, you keep cutting out. If you could just repeat your last couple of sentences. I don't think most of it got picked up. Oh, now your connection's
I just
not
wanted
looking
to
good
address
again.
Radical Disability. Oh, crap. Really? Something wrong on my end.
Yeah. It's you keep dropping bar after bar. You're down to 2 bars now out of 4. Oh, down to 1.
Healthcare, and that we should just get what they have. But as anyone in privilege
what is with this connection?
would say,
man?
They deserve better. So I'm hearing you through your speaker a little bit.
Yeah, it keeps fluctuating. Like it'll be a real strong signal, and then it just kind of drop off, and then you freeze, and then it pops back up again. So I'm not sure what's happening.
Oh, here we go. 5 on network connection.
That's strange. Maybe it's something with Restream that's just not picking you up.
Yeah, because my internet's at full.
Yeah, that's strange. And now you're frozen again.
Arrow.
Oh, don't say that. We all love you on the stream here.
I'm Arrow.
At least you got us.
Button.
Oh yes. I'm not familiar with that.
See, I'm Arrow.
Color. God,
flag. If it's still spotty.
Still spotty. I'm sorry.
I think I should leave and again.
Yeah, why don't you try that? All right. That's too bad. He was saying some good stuff there. Let's hope he can get a stronger connection. We'll bring him on again.
Oh, okay, now. No, it's still like 5.
Now I can hear you, but your face is frozen. Oh, now it's dropped off again. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I guess if worst comes to worst and we can't get this connection thing right, you can always pop up in the chat again and try and type out some of the points you were trying to make. So at least we can keep the discussion going a little bit.
Try.
I think he's going to try and reconnect once more. He said that from his point of view, his router is fine. It's at full capacity. So I'm not sure what it is. It may just it may just be an issue with Restream for some reason, because it does seem to happen with guests more often than it happens with me. So maybe there's something in their program that just screws up. I don't quite know. While we're waiting for that, we can take a look again once more at look back on some of the different elements of the stream that I've done. So we had our Permaculture 101 series, and that's just been kind of my way of getting people. Oh, we're going to try and get Dan. Nope, not quite. I heard the sound for Dan to reconnect, but I'm not seeing his square at all. Not sure what's happening. Anyway, so where is that? There we are. So yeah, my Permaculture 101 series, just because that is such an important, it's one of the three triangular points that I try to synthesize here, trying to get people up to speed on what permaculture is, what it's all about, some of the major figures and philosophies and that sort of thing. That's been one of my favorite series that I've done, and I do plan to keep on with it. Uh, you may notice I don't have an episode 13 because that's the one that got struck down for copyright infringement. Oh, let's see if we can get Dan back in. I see he's trying to get back in. Well, let me take that off and we'll try and get Dan on. No, not
Better.
I'm not even seeing
My
your
internet's
you can't.
really.
That's
Jesus
that's
Christ.
bizarre. I'm looking at the oh here we are. Now you're at least back on camera again. It wasn't even showing your camera for a second there.
I could turn my camera off and see if that helped audio.
Yeah, why don't you try that?
Well, now it's two
Yeah.
bars at least, but is my audio clear?
Yeah, I think so. There may be a bit of a delay, but I think overall you're coming through better.
Definitely don't your speakers anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, what's
Well,
the delay?
why don't you?
Yikes. It seems like my connection's shot. I'm on to your side of the stream now.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and continue
Yikes.
on with the point that you were making, and we'll hope that it will keep up with the audio at least. Now you're showing a stronger connection on my end.
Okay, so first like my internet's at full, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why this is
It's just
happening,
the
but this
network connection. It's network connection through you stream or restream.
must be. There's only ever seems to be a problem with guests, so I'm guessing it's something that to do with Restream.
Mm.
But yeah, why don't you go ahead? You were talking about how unions
So
are against single payer healthcare because it diminishes their usefulness, essentially.
I suppose, but that's the case with like independent struggle.
Yeah.
Kind of odd. Like why are they also against minimum wage hikes?
True.
Uh-oh.
Well, that came through. Yeah, Natalie's saying, "Oh, now I'm frozen for you." Yeah, it's got to be Restream's issue. Must be Restream. because I'm monitoring the channel from my side. I'm watching the broadcast on Facebook. Oh, now Dan's gone completely. That's unfortunate. Well, it was nice having Dan on. Apologize for the technical difficulties. Um, we'll definitely have him on in plenty of future streams, though. He's our most often recurring guest, and he always has a lot of great insights that he brings to whatever discussion we're talking about. And we've talked about quite a variety of things. Looks like he's going to try one more time to get back in. Okay, I think I can
Okay,
hear you
that
now. Well,
seems better now. But no,
okay.
fuck. Fuck it.
Oh, shit. I'm so sorry, Dan.
Oh boy. Fucking damn it. Technology, the future.
Right, right. Uh,
Love
should not
living
be
in
a
the
problem.
future.
Should not be a problem
But
in
hey,
Soviet Russia.
anyway, well, hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.
I should be. I'll message you to see like if you do next week. I would love to join you for one of your permaculture 101s. You know, I'm full of interest on that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I don't
And
know if you can still hear me at all, but
okay, well, Natalie hears me, so I can keep talking. Network bar is at in the red, so
yeah,
uh,
that's what I'm showing.
but at least you're not freezing up on me.
Oh,
So
good.
it's just a lag. It's just a lag. So um, we're talking to tin cup. But anyway, so if we're like the fight for single payer, right? It seems to be dead, like especially with Bernie, but also like even progressive groups don't seem to be very. Or, we're looking for the new leftist project, right? The leftist project isn't reform on the electoral level, right? So
Right.
I get that. So like I get that as much as anybody.
Sure, sure.
So it's not so much you got to join an electoral party organization because any kind of politics
Mm,
has to be done with nation, has to be done collectively
right.
because you're not a rich person who
Right.
wins policy or do politics with. And what you do something to argue about,
That's right.
but I think there's definitely a consensus on doing community projects and prefigurative politics. But it's just with an
Yep.
eye that those projects are just to be educational and stay sane until that we have enough people who know what's up and want socialism. The mission of the debate, bro, whether it's the debate, bro,
Mm-hmm.
essayist, civil war, both just
Mm-hmm.
want, or they're to do some political action, which is just it's still in the prefigurative camp
Mm-hmm.
and not in the taking power kind of camp. But it's you need organizations, which is why I just
Absolutely.
it. But there's the lowest common denominator ideas kind of thing, where if any of
Mm-hmm.
these join an org, they basically cut themselves off from all kinds of audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And but because you can see it in action, when an org has a media channel, they're only limited to those that are in the org pretty much. Outside the org pays attention to them or there is able to reach them by way of network,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Which, but we kind of need these individual means because even Democracy Now or the Pacifica is a network, and all these individuals could be in the same org.
Oh, shoot.
Wasn't there?
Well, crap. You're breaking up again, Dan.
you lose me?
Yep, lost you for a couple seconds there. It sounds like you're back.
Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, I would like RedTubers to actually form an organization, because these Discord servers are like they're a tool of organizing. It's not organizing. It's not being an organization. So I would be ready to join some kind of left-wing network where just like with a Facebook group, there can be a criteria of like answer the question well, and you're in.
Sure.
And that way we collaborate in committee, not committees, groups, but I guess there's a disagreement about what the purpose of this org would be, right?
Right.
But it's obvious that we could actually set a line of a media strategy to support each other outside of that, network.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's what everyone thinks is like the thing that's the future, but this is the future of ANCAPs and techno-feudalists.
Okay. I think I missed something there.
Hear me breaking it.
Yeah, it's a little bit garbled, so I think we missed a little bit there. I'm not sure if you're hearing me at all, Dan. I can still hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me though.
Oh yeah, you froze up.
Okay.
I'm in the red again
Froze
with
up
the
on
network connection.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing
Yeah,
too.
it sounds like it's dying. Well, maybe I'll just
Yeah.
wrap up. Wrap up with remaining
Sure.
bandwidth. Because otherwise I can just keep going. But I would refer everyone to check out my latest episodes where I talk about left-wing strategy. It's episode 139 of the Three Lefts. I have just put it on YouTube at the Three Left Show channel.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
I want to see some
out.
clicks on that. Otherwise, thank you all for your attention. Like where everybody's coming from this chat. And be on again soon.
Absolutely.
I can learn from those videos.
Yeah, if you'd like to be on next weekend.
More.
Yeah, if you want to come on next weekend, we can do some more permaculture stuff. That'd be great. I'm guessing you're probably not hearing me. I probably locked up on your screen again. I'll just send you a message in chat.
Covering and going over the rest of what you've been doing the last year. But hey, it's just 1 year, which is my first year really sucked. Podcasting really sucked. Because we didn't have a full studio with good mics and a computer that would sometimes completely lose my recordings. What else? And lots of white noise too. So the show sounds a lot better now. And so anything over episode 60, I think. But I think I'll still have problematic episode audio problems, even up into the 80s. But yeah, but at least after episode 100, it's been smooth sailing, I think. So
very cool.
You see there a lot of new uploaded episodes. Obviously, it'd be even more work to upload like each of the essays I read, which would be 20 segments, which would probably be applicable for you standards. But I'm with the whole job for now. If I volunteer, I can give you audio up and it goes that way. If someone cares enough, I would welcome that. scholarship.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. I hope
Um,
someone can volunteer for that.
it'd be interesting. But yeah, I do not. Maybe, well, actually, well, with my new job, I would actually have the income to maybe actually pay something, but I'm not volatile, you know. I'd rather save that money. I'd rather save money for getting on the property rope.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Oh boy, got a tickle all of a sudden. All right, I think we're probably just gonna have to say goodbye to you, Dan. I'm not sure if you can even hear me anymore.
I can.
But yeah. Oh, you can. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on again. It was nice to have you on for the anniversary show. We're definitely going to do a lot more stuff with you in the future. So yeah, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but if you want to come on next weekend, we can do some more permaculture 101 stuff, and should be a good time.
All right. See you then.
All right. Have a great night, Dan.
What day of the week would that be?
Sunday. It'll be a Sunday show.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Next Sunday.
Yeah,
Bye.
next Sunday. We'll plan on that. All right. Take care, friend. See you next time. All right. So yeah, go check out Dan's show. I just put the link up in the chat for you. Um, Man, always so insightful that Dan Platt. You know, you're really doing yourself a service by subscribing. He only has, I see now, 8 subscribers. I've now subscribed, so it should say 9. Let's see if it'll update if I refresh here. 9 subscribers. So I'm subscriber 9. Check out his stuff. It's really good. And check out his other channel for just the podcast. That's it's let me there we go. 3lefts.news. Let's go. Here we go. So if you want to get into his podcasting work, that's the place to do it. I'll link that in the chat as well. Yeah, I think it was just some problem with Restream itself. It just was not connecting him up well because it sounded like his internet was working just fine. I have no idea what was. I can't think of what else would be the problem because I never lost any sort of connection through the whole thing. Only he was, but from his end, everything looked good. So that was frustrating, especially at the end. So with the last 15 minutes or so, let's wrap up looking at how this channel has gone. We were looking at Permaculture 101. So we'll be continuing with this series next week with Dan. So we were just talking about no-till methods. Let's take a look in the queue because I have a bunch of videos queued up on my On Permaculture playlist. So let's see where we were. We're almost to the end of it, really. There's only a few more topics I wanted to cover. So I think we were doing sheet composting last time, if I remember right. And I think we did the all, perhaps we did the all native edible forest garden. I'll have to go back and see. But it's going to be things like oh, you know what? I think it was the Matt Powers one last time. I'm not sure if we did the Mike Hogue one. But for those of you who have been following the Monday show, that's been a sneak peek of Mike Hogue's permaculture design course, which has been great. Such a wealth of information. One of my permaculture role models, Mike Hogue. So we'll be doing that again tomorrow night as well. We're going to keep on with that. And the goal eventually with that sort of thing is, you know, once enough of you have gone through these videos with me and you have a really good handle on what permaculture is, I would like to start offering online permaculture design courses, and I'd do it right on stream. So it'd be available, all the knowledge would be available to everyone. But if you want to get certified and to, you know, that actually is a legal term to call yourself a permaculture, to put permaculture in your design bona fides, let's call it, you have to have gone through a permaculture design course. So if you want to actually have that certificate at the end, you would then have to sign up for the course. But I believe in having the knowledge open for anybody. So that's one of the future goals with this stream is to have a weekly probably maybe even twice weekly permaculture design course where people would actually pay to be a part of it. And that part two, I would be introducing a little bit of a, I guess, leftist praxis to it by having a pay as you will fee format for the people that are part of the course. So I don't want to restrict who's able to call themselves a certified, or to say that they have a permaculture design certificate based on people's economic status. It can be very expensive. Your average permaculture course runs about, well, actually, I'd say the average one is more like $1,000 to $2,000. My suggested fee for the course would be $720. That would be $10 an hour. You get 72 hours of coursework. That's your standard permaculture course. Um, but it would all be taught online. It'd be all open to everyone. It's just that if you're a student, you'd be able to come on screen with me, like Dan was doing earlier, and you'd have priority access to me, basically forever. There's no state certification. See, there are some different theories about how permaculture certification should go. There's one group which is more the camp that runs like permaculture is it Permaculture Activist magazine, where they think that they want a much more rigorous uh, certification process to be able to teach a course, I should say. So they want you to have two permaculture design certificate courses under your belt, plus a certain number of years in the field, plus all these other criteria and stuff like that. And then there's what Bill Mollison said. And Bill Mollison said if you have a permaculture design certificate, you can teach a permaculture design course. That's it. I have a permaculture design certificate, but there's no state certifying board. It's all very decentralized, and that's another cool part about it, which puts it pretty much in line with leftist politics. It's very decentralized. There still is a degree of um, oh, I don't know what you would call it, professionalism, I guess, where they want you to at least have a permaculture design certificate to say that you know how to do permaculture, to use it in your promotional materials in any way. But Bill Mollison conceived of it as anyone who's gone through the permaculture design course could then turn around and become a permaculture design course teacher. And so that's kind of the route that I'm taking. Not quite there yet. I haven't built out the curriculum yet that I want to use. Um, there's a project that I want to do also before I get to that point, which is um, it's a bit of we'll go on a bit of a tangent here. So the main text of permaculture is the Permaculture A Designer's Manual, written by Bill Mollison. That would be the main text I'd be teaching off. There is a free PDF version of that text, uh, but right now there's no audiobook version. And I know that if a book is not an audiobook form, it's real difficult for me to get through it. I just don't have the extra free time that I want to devote to just reading by myself. So all my books come through audiobook form. So now I'm at the point where I have found a text version of Permaculture Designer's Manual, but it needs some cleaning up. There are discrepancies because it was grabbed from the PDF, so it's only as good as the scans were on the PDF, and so it was done by a program. Program doesn't know context; it doesn't know what word should be what. So I need people to go through and proofread it and get it cleaned up enough that I can then take a text to speech program and record it reading Permaculture Designer's Manual, the whole manual, chapter by chapter. And then I will put each chapter out on my YouTube channel so that anyone will have free access to the audiobook version, which at this point does not yet exist. But once I get to that point, I think I'll probably be in a good position where I can start actually putting together the course, um, solidifying like what I'm going to do for a presentation for each class, have a better idea of what sort of, I guess, homework assignments I'd like to have for my students, and all of that sort of thing. But look forward to that. That'll be coming. I'd really like to get it done by the end of this year, but we'll see how things go. We'll see how things go and how many people volunteer to help me make that audiobook version of Permaculture, a designer's manual. So there's that to look forward to. In terms of the leftist theory that we're going to be covering, so what we've been doing is we've been alternating back and forth, which I continue to plan on doing, between the anarchist side and the more communist side. So I do plan to go back and forth. I think I'm going to do what Dan had suggested on this stream and look at some more essays before we move on to another big text. We're still not done with the current one. We're currently going through Alexander Berkman's the ABC, or What is Communist Anarchism? So here's the playlist for that one. We're up to chapter 16 of, I think, about 28 chapters, so we have just over 10 to go. And some of these ones are shorter, like, I've done 13 and 14 together, 11 and 12. So probably in the next couple months, we'll finish that book. And at that point, I think I'm going to focus on some essays. So like Dan was suggesting, we can get a little bit more, more of a broad view of these different schools of thought. We can get a bunch of different authors relatively quickly. So we'll do some Mao. We'll do some essays from Emma Goldman. Radical Disability had recommended one from Helen Keller that we'll do that's relatively short. We'll do a Murray Bookchin one. There's one called Post-Scarcity Anarchism. It was one of the first inspirations for Abdullah Ajlan, who is the leader of the Rojava movement, the more or less anarchist region of Syria. He was very influenced by Murray Bookchin, and the first one that he read was Post-Scarcity Anarchism, so we'll read that one too. It's only a 40-minute essay, so we can probably cover that in a single stream. And so we'll get a little more of these foundational ones. Now, one of the shortcomings of what I've been doing so far is that, up until this point, it's all been, white guys from 100 to 150 years ago. And there's a purpose to that. It's that there just wasn't as much of a body of work that's widely read in these disciplines by anyone but white men. Like, they were very dominant up until fairly recent history in terms of English language leftist literature. But it's important to get that foundation first. I felt that it was important to at least read some of the originators of these different concepts before we get into more modern stuff, before we bring in more dimensions to it, like race and colonialism, all these other sorts of things that play into just why the capitalist form is so oppressive. But that'll be phase 2. So once we get a bunch of these essays out of the way, we'll start to bring in some more diverse opinions. We'll start to read stuff from people like Emma Goldman, Rosa Luxemburg, Mao, authors like that. And I think I will cap off phase 1 of this project with the big enchilada. We will eventually get to do Marx's Capital. I think we'll probably just do volumes 1, 2, maybe 3. We'll have to see how much we get out of those first 2. It's going to be a long slog, I gotta say, but it's a really important text, and I think it's a good way to kind of cap off the classics, for lack of a better way of putting it. And at that point, we'll move to phase 2, and we'll start bringing in more dimensions to leftism than just that. We'll bring in an ecological perspective. We'll bring in an indigenous perspective, a black perspective, a LGBTQIA perspective. We'll start broadening up our reading list, and that'll be phase 2. And at the same time, like I said, we'll be bringing in a permaculture design certificate course. and we'll keep up with all the other stuff too. Like, once in a while I do reaction videos, just like dumping on, yeah, Capital. It's gonna be a big one. Um, dunking on people like Jeremy of the Quartering and Abby Shapiro and stuff. We'll do that once in a while too, still, because that's always fun. Perhaps I'll work up my the Halfening character, my parody of Jeremy, and I'll finally be able to debut that. Um, and we'll do more stuff with new urbanism. I think I'd like to take a look at like Jane Jacobs and some of the other principal new urbanist figures that'll just kind of be sprinkled in here and there, especially for the streams that Dan gets on because he's really good. He has a lot of knowledge about urbanist stuff, having an architecture degree and just being in general interested in urban planning. So there'll be that element too. And then the video games. That's the newest one. After putting video games on hold for so long since that first initial experiment, I've started bringing it back a little bit, and the purpose is really to just kind of broaden the appeal of the stream in general. So already we've done 11 episodes of the SJ Witcher. And I picked The Witcher pretty deliberately because it's a very open world game. You can kind of decide what you do. And all throughout it, there's a lot of decisions that affect how you operate as a person. Do you remain neutral and allow bad things to happen? Do you take sides? How do you figure out what the best outcome is likely to be? Because you don't always know. There was one time early on where we caught an arsonist who had burned down a dwarf. A dwarf is in this game is a separate race of humanoids. It's like the Lord of the Rings sort of a dwarf. But there was a guy in the village who was racist against him, burned his workshop down. We caught him and brought him to the dwarf, and he turned him over to the local law enforcement, and they hung him from a tree. So is that really the best just outcome? Because we could have just let him go. That was a different question. So it's been fun kind of grappling with these moral quandaries as we go along and play a really fun, expansive, richly developed, there's a lot of rich character development sort of game. So we'll continue on with that as well. Just kind of whenever I have spare time. Generally, if I get off work early and I get home, I'll do it. Otherwise, it tends to be a Friday thing because I have Fridays off right now. And that's kind of where we're going. Yeah, hopefully, Dan doesn't freeze up next time. So I think that's about all I wanted to say tonight. That kind of gives an overview of where we've come from. How the stream has grown. We actually, we have a Patreon now. I'll pull that up again. So starting to try and monetize this a little bit with the hopes that someday this can be, a part-time gig or something that I do in the wintertime when I'm not landscaping. That would be kind of the dream. So it's just, it's building up slowly, but starting to get a little traction. We have a few subscribers on Twitch. That's been great to see. And every stream, it seems we just by rating into other channels on Twitch, we continue to build those connections with other leftist streamers, and that's been great to see too. Because sometimes they'll repay the favor, they'll raid back into my channel and get a whole bunch of new followers. And Twitch has been the most successful of the platforms, for sure. We are up to 237 followers. 1,118 views. I guess actually I'm pretty close on Facebook to that. Have about that same amount. It's just that Twitch is more easily monetized. Thank you, James. I really do appreciate that. That helps to have that encouragement. Because there are plenty of times when it's basically just me reading into the void, and I know a lot of people. I will always get many times more views of the VOD, the recorded video on Twitch, or Facebook especially, than I do get live viewers. So I know that people are still watching my stuff. They're still coming back to it week after week. So that's encouraging to see. I just wish I could figure out a way to get more people in here for the live thing, because it's always more fun and more productive too when we have a bunch of people in. Keep that discussion lively. So yeah. All right. Well, it's 9 o'clock, so I think this is my cue to exit. So I want to be respectful of Amanda's time, and we have a pretty strict 9 o'clock bedtime because we both get up very early for work. So there is a way to do it from Twitch. It's a little kind of half box. It looks like this, and then there's an up arrow on it. Let's see if we can find a picture of it. We'll go into here, and we will look at the channel right now. And I should be able to show you how you share it. So let's stop sharing that, and we will share the Twitch screen. Brett Theory on Twitch. Here we go. It's gonna look weird, but bear with me. Okay, so here's the current video, and what you got to do is it under settings? It's been a while. We may just have to scroll down. Oh, here we go. So down in this area here, you have the ability to share. So here's the box, and then it'll pull up with what platform you want to share it onto. And that's all you got to do. You can copy that URL. You can share directly to Twitter or Facebook or whatever. All the sharing really helps though too. But that it should be the same case for you if you just find that button. I will tell Amanda hello as well. I always like having her on. And then that's another thing that's going to be more common going forward, is we're going to have Amanda on more. She's getting into it a lot. And I have a lot of fun doing with her. It's always a lot more fun when she gets to join as well. Okay. Well, looks like we only got one viewer on Twitch, but we can still raid, I suppose. Let's see who's on. Is it just... Oh, no, we don't have any. Let's see who... It might just be me. It might just be including myself as the one viewer. I'm not entirely sure. But it helps to share it wherever. So if you like to watch on Facebook, helps to share it to different groups or your own, personal profile. Sharing is always a real important way of growing this thing more organically. All right, let's take a look. Get into Stream Manager there. Oh, now I'm showing three viewers. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and raid somebody. Let's see who we can find. Uncommon Soul. Can't remember who that is. Bread Crochet is always a good person to raid. Anyone have any suggestions of who I should raid? Can't see it on your iPhone screen. So if you tap on the video while it's playing, there should be a list of controls that come up, and there should be one that looks like a box with an up arrow. That should be the way you can share it. Let me look on my own phone. I'll figure it out for you. I'll go into someone else's stream, and I'll figure it out. Okay. Oh yeah. So if you tap on the video itself, I'm in an ad. But if you tap on the video itself, you'll have a list of controls that'll come up. It should be on the top corner. At least, I don't know if you have an iPhone or an Android, but it should be on the top right-hand corner, and it looks like a little half box with an up arrow, and that's the share button. No, I don't think it would be a green box. 1 second, I'll be done with this commercial, and I can tell you for sure. Okay. So like if you tap on the screen, the pause button will come up, right? The subscribe button will come up. And then you have the far right, it'll be the controls. It'll be a clip. I believe that's a clip button. And then the third one in from the right is an up arrow. And that should be the one to share. It's not that green box down on the left. That's just channel points. You're on iPhone. So it should be the same for you. You should be able to like, here. So you tap the screen, right? So you just tap it and it should come up right over here, if that helps at all. You know, because this is a year anniversary, it definitely should be someone that I've interacted with, that I raid into. Someone that actually knows me when they get that raid. So I think we'll probably raid into bread crochets then. You're doing Vladimir Lenin, so appropriate. Definitely appropriate. Oh, and he's making a Vladimir Lenin little crochet creation. That's cool. All right. So check out Bread Crochets. I'll put the link up in chat for you. Ah, glad to hear it, Natalie. So check out Bread Crochets, whether or not you're coming on the raid or not. And if you are coming on the raid, thank you very much. It always helps. And we will start it shortly. All right. Thank you all for hanging in tonight, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow night for some more permaculture.